All right, welcome into a special episode here on Five Reasons YouTube channel. Not something we're expecting.
The return of 5 Reasons Unscripted.
I think that's what we're calling it. This is completely unscripted. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. We've got Louis Sung. You can follow him at Louis D. Sung on Twitter. I guess the story that you wrote today about the 5 things they need. I guess the 6th thing they need now is a coach.
Yeah,
and
no
of
kidding.
course you can find that story. And of course our guy Michael Quirk, who I always screw up his Twitter handle, but it's SJB Michael, correct? Is that right? I got it right for the first time. All right. Brian Flores has been fired. We're going to be with you here. Louis and I are going to kind of direct traffic. Alejandro Villegas is behind the scenes producing. We'll have others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network who are popping in. There's a Twitter Spaces going on right now that our guys from the Extra Yard are hosting, Kai and Juan. It's about 700 people on there, so maybe some of them will end up kind of directing over here. We're going to take your comments. We're going to go through this, the reasons why perhaps this happened, what's next. Obviously, there are going to be tweets that are coming out. But the big news is Brian Flores has been fired. Now, we're sponsored here in the early part of the program by our friends over at Everything Trade Shows. Go to everythingtradeshows.com. If your company's going back to trade shows, based right here in Fort Lauderdale, they service all 50 states. Get your booth made nice. They'll do it for you. They'll show you exactly how it's going to look for free. If you mention 5 Reasons, go to everythingtradeshows.com. It's everythingtradeshows.com. They work with Microsoft, Citrix, many other big companies. They can certainly help yours. And again, even with COVID, people are going back to trade shows here at all of the convention centers. So go to everythingtradeshows.com. Reach out to our guy, Chris Chase, and we'll tell you more about them over the course of the show. All right, let's get to it. I think shock, guys, is the word that comes to mind here. I don't think we thought this would be, the prototypical Black Monday here that it is around. I mean, we thought Joe Judge with the Giants, Mike Zimmer with the Vikings. These things were sort of expected. Brian Flores had a losing record in 3 years as a head coach, but he did finish the season by winning 8 out of 9. He inherited a team that was going through a complete, I don't know if you call it a tank job, but certainly a full-scale rebuild. They were very good defensively under him, particularly when he and we talked about it yesterday, Louis, on the show on the Final Yard, particularly when he kind of got back to what they did the previous year. But they struggled offensively. There's no question about that. It didn't seem that he believed in the quarterback. There were some questionable hires in the coaching staff. We talked about the offensive line coach and some of the troubles with offensive coordinator. But I can tell you that 87% of the people, and there's already 2,000 votes on a poll I put up 7 minutes ago, 87% of the people on 5 Reasons Sports came back and said, we don't like this. We were against this firing. Your initial reaction to this?
My initial reaction is now I have to write a whole new offseason program. It's like now that was my initial reaction. It's like crap. Now the column doesn't make any sense. So I truly can't believe that this is something that that Stephen Ross decided to do. Really, I understand what Jeff Darlington's tweeting out. Basically, this is the full breakdown of everything that's going on. This has number one. This has nothing to do with Jim Harbaugh, according to Darlington. According to Darlington, this has nothing to do with Jim Harbaugh.
Well, Louis, I'll say this. Jeff was a Dolphins beat writer when they chased Jim Harbaugh the last time. He's connected to Harbaugh, so he would know. So I trust Jeff's information on that.
Okay, so
for now.
There you go. You trust Jeff Darlington of ESPN. So basically we're saying that, okay, so Jim Harbaugh's not the target, which does make you wonder, okay, then who is exactly? Number 2 is that the reason Brian Flores got fired is not so much the record, I think. It's more just along the lines of he really started to get on Ross and Grier's nerves. But we've heard floating reports about that sort of thing, is that Flores always acted like he was the smartest guy in the room, that he tended to make it so that nobody else's voice mattered, that he tended to be a micromanager of everything. And I guess that's basically what it boiled down to. You piss off the owner, you get fired. That's what happened with Adam Gase. You piss off the owner, you get fired. So you can either blame Ross for being very thin-skinned, or you can say that these guys we have a tendency to hire a lot of people who act like they know everything, and it's not like Brian Flores was perfect. Brian Flores wasn't perfect. He couldn't put together an offensive staff to save his life. And knowing that is his weak spot, but he continues to act like he knows everything, and that could be where the disconnect is. Now, does that mean you have to find somebody who's more humble? I mean, that would be great. if you could. I don't. Confidence and arrogance are two different things. There is a certain difference there. There's confidence and there's arrogance, and Flores definitely leaned toward the arrogance side. And now I see Alfredo Arteaga in the chat basically saying that this has everything to do with Deshaun Watson. Well, here's the thing. If that's the case, does that mean that it has everything to do with making sure that Watson doesn't show up? Because the whole point of Deshaun Watson coming to Miami was he wanted to play for Brian Flores. Now Brian Flores is gone. Does he still want to come to Miami? Because if he does, I'm really going to question his
here's the thing about this. I'm going to pivot to Michael, but here's the thing about that. We had heard behind the scenes that it was Flores of the triumvirate that was pushing for Watson the most. So you're right. That's why this part of it doesn't make sense. The other thing about this, the reason this shouldn't be too stunning if you've been following along, is there's been certain media people who I know have relationships with Grier who've been critical of Flores consistently of late. And Michael, this is my whole thing on it, and I want to get your overall view on it, but is that I just tweeted this. The Dolphins don't play playoff games; they play blame games. And there was a great comment that just came in here that this is the 3-year cycle. It's always the same. They bring in somebody because they're going some different direction, right? With Joe Philbin, they're going for an offensive guy, right? For Adam Gase, you're going for a young offensive genius, right? With Tony Sperano, when Parcells came in, you want a tough physical football team. You go through these patterns, right? Offensive coach, defensive coach, offensive coach, defensive coach. Every 3 years, then, the owner decides at some point that it's not working out. He blows up the entire blueprint by believing one person inside, not both, but one. He chooses a side. It appears at this point that he may have chosen the side of Chris Grier, at least in terms of direction, because we're not hearing that he's getting fired. Chris Grier could survive multiple hurricanes, earthquakes. He would still be the last guy in the building, all right? So this comes in here, Alfredo. This was about a choice between Tua and Flores. And again, Alfredo's got good information, so you got to trust him over 3 yards per carry. But this is the same. It's the same exact cycle. We'll hear the same thing again when they bring someone in. Stable organizations do not fire coaches every 3 effing years, okay? I tweeted, the Miami Heat have had 3 coaches in 27 years. The Dolphins have 3 coaches like every 6. Your thoughts?
Yeah, usually when you see an NFL coach getting fired, it's just a banging drum from the fan base. Like you see with the Giants, they wanted Judge gone forever. You see that usually. And so to have a fan base who goes, wait, we didn't want this. We weren't looking for this. Bill Parcells talked about, hey, if you want me to cook dinner, you have to let me buy the groceries. Well, that first year, Chris Grier bought those groceries at an Exxon. And from then on, he went and got them from maybe an Aldi at best. Because I mean, the fact that he won 5 games with a roster that people were saying was morally reprehensible, that you're going to get guys injured in the NFL because they're so bad, that's insane. And then he goes and wins 10 games with a rookie quarterback splitting time and then gets them. Listen, we can talk about why they went 1-7, and that's an indictment on Grier. But then the fact that he rallies them to go 9-8 and so forth, it's ridiculous. And it's the Dolphins are going to keep paying for the sins of their past about passing on Mike Tomlin. And so now they're just churning through coaches. They passed on Aaron Rodgers at 2 to go Ronnie Brown, and now they just have churned through quarterbacks. And it's frustrating. I understand it's the relationship pulling. But if someone had to go, and that's where it came to, is just the crossroads, somewhere had to go, I just don't understand how you don't think, oh, this is Grier's fault here. I mean, the free agent signings, Shaq Lawson, who then just got released by the Jets a few days ago. So obviously he's been running through teams, so that wasn't exactly the best move. Kyle
Van Noy, right? He made a play against you. Well, that's the thing. Like, you take a look at it, Lewis. I mean, you have not been on the Grier bandwagon for a while now, and one of the things that Mike mentions here. We talk about the veteran guys. Well, he went out and got veteran guys 2 years ago, but he got no veteran offensive lineman. I mean, the one veteran offensive lineman he got, Eric Flowers, he got rid of. Who I think Eric Flowers might have made a 1 or 2 game difference this season for this team. If it just simply meant you could have shuffled guys around and not played Jesse Davis. Like, I mean, if they choose a veteran, they choose Jesse Davis over Eric Flowers. We're never going to know completely who was responsible for every decision. But I feel that's kind of why Chris Grier has skated here for 15 years, because like we said that we're like, well, he worked under this guy and he worked under this guy and he worked under this guy, but this wasn't his fault and this wasn't his fault. Are we still at the stage where it's not his fault? I mean,
Ethan, I just think this has to do with the fact that if Ross truly cleaned house, he would be all alone on an island and he's scared to death. He's scared to death. He wants somebody who he trusts, and wrong or right, he trusts Chris Grier. And again, even with the awful 2020 draft, first round picks that Grier made, and again, we are still not sure if Tua is under the awful category or if he's in the could eventually be great category. But nevertheless, he is somebody that if you still ask around NFL circles, and I'm sure you can attest to this, they will still say that Chris Grier is very much worthy of being a general manager in this league. Now, do we agree with that? Some people will say yes. Some people will say no. I gave him credit for at least picking some good players this past season. You have to give him credit for Jalen Phillips, Jalen Waddle, for Javon Holland. You have to give him credit for that. You can absolutely rip him to shreds for Austin Jackson, Noah Igbenogany, and now you can argue Tua. And that's according to what it is. That's according, again, if you listen to Alf, that means that's what this whole thing was all about, is that Flores did not trust Tua. Tuanon was right. Go figure. Tuanon was right.
Well, and we agreed with that, right? I mean, that was obvious, right?
Yeah, it was painfully obvious. Yes, it was.
Right.
And now, again, I know my guy Jason Sarney. I don't know if like he's also saying that apparently Flores and Tua exchanged words last night after the game was over, and it was not pretty. So you can take that for what you will. I get very, it's the whole sources talk, the sauces, I don't know, but it does sound like something that would come to a head. You could tell there was, in spite of the fact he didn't throw that many yards, there was a certain swagger to Tua last night. Like he wanted to prove something. He wanted to be like, I've never seen Tua
that was
like,
an FU. That was an FU to somebody inside the organization. I have felt that recently, and maybe that Tua's, the way he's acted publicly, which we know he's a reserved guy but confident, right? Like the way that he's acted lately, he has been trying to make a statement to people inside the organization. It's been painfully obvious. It was it was painfully obvious that Flores didn't believe in him, and we had heard that Flores was one of the people pushing for Watson. So I guess this means now that they are committed to Tua, because if you're making
that's exactly what it means. Yeah, they are committed to Tua, and this has a lot to do with Chris Grier also saying that, listen, I didn't make the wrong choice. I know what I'm doing here. But you know what? Now, if nothing else. This is where it is going to boil down to. Whoever the new head coach is, he's going to have to agree that he's going to work with Tua. Now, Here's the thing, and I see this a lot. I see this in the comments happening a lot. I see Mike saying it. I've seen some other people saying it here. Not you, Mike, another Mike in the comments. But anyway, there it is. Sean Pink. Could the Dolphins, instead of trading for a quarterback, try to trade for a coach who, if I'm not mistaken, the Saints didn't make the playoffs, right?
No, they did not.
They did not make the playoffs. So instead of trading for sending all those draft picks to the Texans for Watson, could you end up trading all those picks to the Saints and say, give us your head coach, who we keep saying over and over again is the perfect match for Tua Tagovailoa? Do
you trade draft picks for? Okay, let's dive into that a little bit, guys. Okay, because there have been teams that have traded draft picks for head coaches. It was done with John Gruden once upon a time before we knew more about John Gruden.
There's Alfredo reporting that Darlington said the same thing that Jason Sarney was saying just now. Is that they didn't talk to each other. They hated each other.
Well, you could see that happening. I mean, again, none of this is stunning in this regard. Like, you could see that there was friction there. I don't know all the specifics of it, but if I were Tua, I wouldn't like the way Flores handled the situation. He was wishy-washy. He had to put a gun to his head to support the guy publicly. I wonder, what's funny too is COVID plays into this, guys, okay? A lot more would have gotten out if the locker rooms were open the past 2 years. That has changed the way that teams are covered. We don't know as much. It's all Zoom calls and hearsay. You don't get to pull a guy aside in the locker room like I did for 25 years. Okay, so what the hell's really going on here? And so there probably was a ton of stuff that the media just frankly missed, okay? So all you could really read was these pressers where Brian Flores seemed forced to say something nice about his quarterback, right? I mean, so this was probably going on the entire time, and it manifested itself on the field. I'm going to go back now. There's a couple of things. That game that Tua wanted to play, okay, that he went out on the field in front of everybody and showed he was healthy enough to play and did not play. If you sort of play this back in your head now, Michael, you can see how some of this stuff played out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to mention that it kind of worked out for someone in the AFC East to trade for a head coach. I don't think the Patriots are wishing they had that 2000 first-round pick back.
True.
But
True.
No, it'll be interesting. And like you said, the flip-flopping between defensive guy, offensive guy, defensive guy, offensive guy, that's going to be directly tied to Tua, is finding someone who can not only work with him, but you're going to want someone who can develop him. Is that Hackett? Is that Leftwich? Caldwell, I've banged that drum for a while. He got a really raw deal. He took the Lions to the playoffs. That's Yemen's work right there. Twice. He took the Lions to the playoffs. He took the Colts to the Super Bowl, and he was fired from that Colts job.
But, Michael, is he ready to coach again? Because, I mean, the Dolphins did bring him in, and then, he had a health issue, and he disappeared.
He interviewed for the Jags. He's going to interview for the Jaguars job, right? So, I mean, he's got to be okay.
For the Jags. But that's what worries me, is he's getting up there in years.
To Justin's point, though, I mean, this is the balance. Do you want another first-time head coach? I mean, I'm reading the comments here, right?
No.
So, I mean, do you want Byron Leftwich as a first-time head coach? And I like Byron Leftwich, but how much of Byron Leftwich is the fact that he's playing with the greatest? He's coaching the second greatest quarterback of all time. Sorry, Dan. I mean, this is that's the balance. They've gone every direction here. Okay, like Ross has tried. He has not won a playoff game since he's been here, but has literally tried everything. When was
the last time he did an experienced head coach?
Well, last time the Dolphins did an experienced head coach would be Jimmy Johnson, right? Dave Wannstedt, right?
And that was before Ross even showed up.
That was before Ross.
So Ross has basically been cycling rookie head coaches all his entire time he's been here.
Well, let's go through it. He inherited Sperano, which was a Parcells hire, right? Okay. They had Todd Bowles briefly as an interim, and obviously didn't keep him.
And he was a rookie too.
He was a rookie too. Okay, Philbin. That's the one reason I don't trust Ross at all, because the Gase one, at least I couldn't stand Adam Gase. Okay, and I called that 2 years before he was fired. But okay, the Adam Gase one, at least I understood that. Like, there were like 5 other teams that wanted him. He was the hot candidate and all that stuff. I got that one. But hey, David W. Eversole joining us here. But the thing is, like, that one at least I got. Okay, the Philbin one, like, I don't trust Ross to make a head coaching decision ever again. Like, how are you in that room with Joe Philbin and say, that's the guy I want? That guy, no personality, right? Didn't call the plays. That's the guy who's going to lead us to the promised land. Why? Because he's a nice guy, and unfortunately had some family tragedy the week before. Like, I don't understand.
He was Aaron Rodgers. He was the offensive coordinator for Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Well, okay. He was the offensive coordinator who didn't call the plays. I mean, again, these are decisions that are made. And then you go back further, and Michael mentioned the Mike Tomlin thing. That wasn't a Ross thing. That was a Joe Bailey thing, who felt he was too hip hop, okay, and all the rest of that. And that hasn't worked out for Pittsburgh at all, right? Was he making like his 17th playoff appearance since he was hired there? Mm-hmm. David, I just want to get your initial thoughts as you jump in here.
Well, full disclosure, I've been a Dolphins season ticket holder for 5 years now, and I regret that decision today more than I probably have over that time. It's a rudderless ship, this organization right now. You don't know where they're headed, what their thought process is, what their end game is. It seems like Flores had a lot of under the surface things that maybe we were unaware of that kind of triggered this, and the free fall in the middle of the season probably planted that seed, and it was only a matter of when, not if. But I'm honestly surprised, especially how the team played yesterday, and overall after the 1-7, they kind of steadied everything. It's just a real surprise. And with the Harbaugh now not being linked to the organization for now, at least, I just don't know. It's another uncertain offseason for the Dolphins, and it's wash, rinse, and repeat for the last 2 decades. So,
all right. So two questions related to that, and I'll let you guys take it, because you look what David brings up here. A, do we think if they made the playoffs this happens? Does anybody think if they made the playoffs
No.
that he's fired?
No.
Okay. All right. So basically, if they win the Tennessee game, right? Is that what we're talking about here? They win the Tennessee game, he's still there. Is that right?
Well, the
All right, so-
Jacksonville game.
but it was there for them in the Tennessee game. That's what I'm saying. Like if they win
If they
that
made
game,
the playoffs,
they're-
period, they would have done it.
They're
would've
in the
been fine.
playoffs. Okay.
If they were in the playoffs, he would have left them alone.
Okay. All right. And the second question I have here is, doesn't he have to have somebody in mind? He's not making this decision unless he has somebody in mind, right? He can't be that myopic, right? Like
Are you sure about that? Are you sure? Because now we're hearing that the only person that we could potentially even consider thinking of that Ross would drop everything for, and now Darlington's saying it has nothing to do with him. So that tells me that Ross has already made peace with the fact Harbaugh's never coming to Miami. He hates the idea of coming to Miami. So now I think this really just has something to do with the fact you didn't fulfill your promise to make the playoffs. You hate my quarterback that my GM picked. And you pissed me off the other day, like again and again and again. So this is Ross saying, like, let me remind you who's in charge around here. Let me remind you who makes the paychecks around here. Here's your pink slip. Please leave. I think that's really what it had to do with. I don't think there's a plan. I don't think there's a plan yet. I think Grier is going to get with Ross and say, all right, let's see if we can find somebody who's not going to treat us like trash after 2 seasons. So, but if that's the case, and now there's a lot of options now. But you know what? I'm going to bring this up, and I'm just going to throw this out there as a potential option. There's a lot of head coaches.
Hold on, Alfredo's comment. I don't know if that's your option, but I that's not.
Doug Pederson is not who I had in mind, but you know what?
They'll do whatever the owner wants. We know that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, if Manny were here, I'm sure he could give us some insight onto the whole Doug Pederson thing. But the thing that I'm going to bring up is that we already knew that if Flores had stuck around. Remember, one of the things that I had put up in my must-do list for the Dolphins was they have to upgrade that staff. Flores doesn't attract a lot of potential options along those lines. And we all knew that he ran the defense. And there are actually a lot of solid defensive coordinator options floating around right now. Mike Zimmer. You have Mike Zimmer floating around. You have Vic Fangio, who's available again. And I'm sure that Jim Harbaugh is going to swipe up at least a couple of these guys, right? Because that's what he does. He is Jim Harbaugh. Whoever he goes, a lot of them are going to follow. But that being said, there are some options for the Dolphins for assistant coaches now. And so these options are available now because Flores is not there. Flores could not attract people. Flores could not get people to come and work for him. So now you have him gone. Whoever the next coach is, maybe they will have a better chance at bringing in some legitimate actual options that we can say, okay, it looks like we actually might have something here. So, and now we have Shane in here who is, I'm sure he's very happy about the Brian Flores firing, which is going to be an incredible shock because usually whenever Shane comes in, he's absolutely positively miserable. So I want to hear what happy Shane sounds like. Go ahead, Shane.
Well, miserable is the life. That's a Dolphins fan baseline, right? Like that's where we start at. You guys, I was not a fan of Flores, and just kind of jumping on here. I'm sure you guys have touched a lot of this stuff. And one thing I want to point out, and I said this a while ago, is first of all, can we just look at how overrated the Patriot way is? Like, how many coaches even got to this position through the years, former Patriot coaches, because they were essentially just part of the greatest quarterback that's ever lived? Right? I mean, there's a lot of assistants. The national media is already starting to jump down the Dolphins. Dumb decision. But we know how that is. The Dolphins are an easy target, right? And I know you've talked about him not being able to pull in assistants and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't know how much we're going to believe. We've heard whispers through Alf and all the guys about some of Flores' stubbornness, which is probably a problem. And it's already looked like the Dolphins are already starting to get some of that stuff starting to leak to kind of defend themselves. So how much of it's true? Like we saw the Darlington tweet about Tua and him at the Ravens game. What's the actual truth of the matter? But I think we've the whispers we've heard about all this in the background kind of matches to what's being put out there about Flores, right? And you really start to wonder, how much that Grier and Flores, relationship soured. Do you think Grier trying to save his job, when with the whole Tua situation is in there going, well, this guy, Ross is saying, well, we took this quarterback 5th overall. What's up with his play? And is Grier using, hey, the head coach is sabotaging my quarterback in a way type, obviously not his exact words, but you got to wonder if that was part of the conversation.
All right. So here's what I'm going to go ahead and say this again. We already knew that Brian Flores did not like Tua. We knew this for a fact. Tua we made jokes about it. Is every week we would get so-called proof that Flores was sabotaging Tua, but it was painfully obvious. Like even once that one game where Tua went out there to show, listen, I'm healthy, I can throw the ball just fine, and they still went with Jacoby Brissett, almost in protest. It was painfully obvious that Flores did not like Tua. And regardless of the why he didn't like Tua, it just, if you're gonna say that he's your quarterback, like you keep saying it, Tua's our quarterback, but his actions did not reflect that. You can't say one thing and do another, because people are going to see what you're doing and they're going to ignore the words coming out of your mouth. And oh, by the way, for SPVCE who's saying that Xavier Howard's going to leave, I guarantee you that if the Dolphins throw a lot of money at him, he's going to stay. Okay, he'll stay for the money. He was here before Flores. He'll be here after.
The Chan Gailey hire screamed, "I'm not on board with Tua."
Yeah.
You don't go hire that OC for Fitzpatrick, who obviously, Gailey at the most would have been a 2-year project. You would have got 2 years out of the guy, before he decided to re-hang it up. That hire said, no, I have no interest in bringing an OC that's going to develop this kid and spend time with them. Someone that could be here a few years or till hopefully we hang on to this OC until he gets a head coaching job. Like, he hired Chan Gailey. Like, remember when Gailey was hired, it felt like, what is this? You just took a quarterback 5th overall. Don't you want to, are we building around him? And then he went and built around Fitzpatrick. Like, in hindsight, that move felt more protesty to the Tua pick than, them just starting Brissett.
Right. Is everybody see Alfredo, when you put that stuff in the comments there, you got to let us know it's not a report, because you do have information. So we're just I
wish Alfredo would come in.
Yeah, I know. Well, if he comes in, I'm going to get kicked out again, because it seems like when we get to 5, we lose one. But let me just ask this. I put this up there. Let me ask this question for you guys. Does Brian Flores get another head coaching job in this cycle? He's going to be head coach eventually again. In this cycle, do we think he gets one?
As far as a head coaching position?
Yes.
Houston, maybe. If Cesario's smart, he'll bring in Flores and try to say, hey, listen, Deshaun, we got your guy, man. He's our coach now. You still don't want to leave? You still want to leave? That's what I would do. And that's what Alfredo's talking about, is that he can repair the relationship between the Texans and Deshaun Watson. Like, that would be an instant fix right there. It's like, oh, we don't have to trade him anymore. We can just hire his coach. That would be a perfect fit. But aside from that, I guess it just depends on how badly he graded on Ross and Grier, because again, that stuff gets around. If you hear that Flores is a know-it-all and that he acts like a jerk sometimes, he will get it. If he doesn't become a head coach, I guarantee he will be somebody's defensive coordinator. I guarantee you that. But I think Houston, honestly, if he really loves Watson that much,
oh my God,
perfect.
Oh my God, could you imagine if he goes to Houston, there's no trade, and Flores goes to the playoffs next year, with the Texans. I mean, there will be a meltdown.
Sorry, Ethan. I just got to bring it up.
It's
That this is a report that Flores was fired after he was asked to make changes on his staff last night. So basically, Ross and Grier went to Flores and said, "Fix it," and Flores said, "No," and that's what happened.
Who do you think he's most loyal to there that he wouldn't fire? Is it the offensive line coach? Is it LaPierre? Is it
all of his yes men? All of his. Listen,
but you and I talked about this last night, and we said that Ross is going to have to go to him and is going to have to say, you've got to get rid of some of these coaches, okay? The coaching thing hasn't worked out, but we questioned whether Flores would actually eliminate guys who were loyal to him and bring in strong personalities, okay, who had track records.
This is the same thing that happened with Adam Gase. It's the hubris, the arrogance. I know everything, and I don't want anybody who can come in and challenge me. It's the same thing. It keeps happening.
Wasn't Gase was a Bill Belichick product too? It's
to a degree, yeah. He was a
Saban,
Belichick.
Still Saban. There is still that element. It's just I don't know. I find it like the more we unravel this, and I mean the Patriots, yes, they're in the playoff, but that is a mediocre organization without Tom Brady in place, right? And
Shane, would you hire Shane? And I'll go to David on this too. Would you hire a first-time head coach again here? For Patriots or no Patriots, would you hire would you hire an experienced head coach?
I'm not a big believer of the old theory, like, when a team fires an offensive coach, they hire the defensive coach, or the defensive coach, the offensive coach, and then, we just fired a first-time head coach, so now we got to go hire an experienced head coach, or we just did the retread, now we're going to go get a hot young guy. Teams tend to do that. I'm tend to go find the best guy available, kind of take those parameters out.
Yeah, you're resetting expectations on the franchise once again. There's no viable marquee candidate out there right now. So you've sort of limited yourself already, and you put yourself in a position of desperation by making a rash decision the day after the season ends. So to me, I think they have to look at somebody who's maybe a little bit younger, forward thinking, who has an opportunity to develop Tua, most importantly, because you have your first-round quarterback in place. You don't have a high draft pick this year. Your likelihood to bring in an established veteran quarterback is probably pretty slim in terms of somebody who's going to elevate the team over Tua. So if you're starting all over, I don't really think it matters if you bring in a college-level coach to jump in this position.
I don't think it's a rash decision. I think this decision was made weeks ago, and they probably went in. It's almost like, if you're a boss and you're going to fire somebody, sometimes you're going to ask them to make a change. They're going to say no to, and it's
right.
It's schematics at that point. I bet you Flores was fired at 1-7. He maybe ran the table, and they said, and they didn't get fooled by beating Zach Wilson and Ian Book and and some of these bad quarterbacks, and they said, you know what? Okay, maybe you won some games. Maybe they said, okay, well, make some major changes. You got to segment this team like Alpha's talked about, really segment. And Flores has probably had it in his head. He's probably known that question's been asked for him for weeks. Mm-hmm. He knew that question was coming.
I'm with you. I mean, he's smart. He knows the deal here. There's going to be an emergency three yards per carry that's going to be dropping soon. I want to comment on some of Shane's stuff and pivot back to Lewis. I do want to mention, while you guys are all here with us, we're here because of our sponsors, so please support our sponsors. We appreciate it. One of them, if you guys play daily fantasy, of course, is prizepicks.com. Use the code 5, FIVE, and you get your initial deposit matched. So put down $100. They'll give you $100 to play with. We do prize pick shows all the time here. David and I do on the YouTube channel, so you can kind of learn how to play and who to pick. And, of course, you can play NBA, NFL, and everything else, NHL there. So use the code 5, FIVE. Like I said, support our sponsors so we can continue to pump out the content for you. We want to stay free. Obviously, we're free on YouTube, but we want to stay free on the website and on our podcast, 5 on the Floor, 5 Rings Canes, and 3 yards per carry, and Shula Bowl also. So we appreciate that. All right, let me get back to a couple of things and just pivot this conversation. We appreciate Michael being in here. Probably join us a little bit later. Thanks to Shane, Lewis, and David for joining. Others will be here during the day. I'm with Shane on this. I think it's pretty obvious that Ross made a decision at 1-7. I feel like the only chance that Flores had, honestly, was probably to run the table. I mean, that was it. I mean, I think, and that's why we said the Tennessee game, if it wasn't over before then, it was over after that. But I guess we're really focusing on 3 questions here. One, why did this happen? I think we're getting a better sense of why it happened, and some of the leaks will come out. The blame game starts, and we're going to get that. Number 2 is, what does this mean for Tua now? And I feel like that's sort of up in the air. I mean, it does feel, Lewis, I'm with you, and the rest of you guys, to a certain degree, this is about the general manager's belief in Tua. We had heard, and we had reported some of this, that Grier was not the guy pushing for the Watson trade, okay? He was the guy being pushed to make the Watson trade by Ross and or Flores, okay?
Ross is now actually talking to the media, basically saying that there was not a whole lot of collaboration between Ross, Grier, and Flores.
There you go. First time he's talked in 2 years? Is that right? Is that the first time he's talked in 2 years?
Yeah, I'm adding it to my he was fired story now as we speak.
Okay, first time he's talked in 2 years. So again, this is the same cycle as always, that Ross picks a side, essentially, right?
Well, and it's always Grier's side. That's the one thing, though.
Well, the problem is that there are sides to begin with. You
Right.
have an organizational disconnect. There's no linear process of organizational structure. You got the head coach with his
Because the problem is
coordinators.
Because David, because what they're doing is they keep trying to make the Holy Trinity. They need to have a very distinct level of a chain
There has
of
to be a
command.
hierarchy. There has to be a hierarchy.
They need to have a chain of command. It's like, I am the boss, you are not. You listen to me. But see, that's the problem. Now you have, even if you create this chain of command, now the question becomes, well, do you trust the people in the chain of command? So Ross is always going to be on top because he obviously signs the checks. Do you trust Chris Grier to make a hire? Do you trust Chris Grier to find somebody worthwhile?
Let's talk about another guy who hides for the media. We'll never learn the process on that either.
Well, you have to look at Grier versus talent evaluator versus general manager, coaching, developer, those kind of things, because they brought in good players. You know, you could look at the drafts and you could say what you want, but this last draft class, I mean, these first round players I think are all going to be very good.
What about 2020 though, David? I'm with you on 2021.
But I mean, listen, players have to perform as well, and that's partially on the coaches. And you see the development of Tua has been, abbreviated because of all this inconsistency throughout the organization. And I think it's put him in a bad spot. And he hasn't played well. I mean, honestly, he hasn't played well in spots too. So there's plenty of blame to go around. But I feel like you're not putting every person in the right position to succeed, whether it's your coach, whether it's your quarterback, whether it's your coordinators. Nobody really feels like defined to me. Like Tua's the guy 1 week, then you're bringing in Brissett on third down. It's just
because he didn't believe in it. But again, this kind of counters a lot of stuff that was out there this year with this idea that somebody was going to pay the price for not taking Herbert. It sounds to me like this is actually the opposite, because you're keeping the general manager who made that decision and firing the coach who didn't believe in the quarterback. Like that narrative that Ross was upset about Herbert not being taken, that doesn't seem to have been the case here. It seems to me like he thinks that Tua is the guy, right? Like, isn't that the assumption?
So here's the thing, Ethan. Here's the thing. Yeah, it's painfully obvious that somebody in that organization liked Tua, otherwise they wouldn't have picked him at all. So if Flores is obviously the guy who does not like Tua, that means it had to be Ross and Grier who wanted Tua. So it's very obvious. Now, regardless of what we personally think about Tua, I don't know how Shane falls on the Tua thing. I don't know how David falls on the Tua thing. But regardless of whether you think he's the guy or not, it's not at all a stretch to say that he was not supported.
Correct.
He was not given what is necessary for a young quarterback to succeed. He does not have the weapons that Justin Herbert has. He does not have an improved offensive line like Mac Jones has. He doesn't even have the support of his head coach. He basically had the opposite. He basically, again, with actions rather than words, Flores basically looked at Tua and said, I don't like you. I want you gone. And I never wanted you in the first place. And I hate the fact they drafted you. So you tell me if that is an environment that is synonymous with Tua becoming the franchise quarterback. No quarterback would come in here and be able to succeed in an environment like that. You tell me Who you tell me Justin Herbert, if Flores hated him, if they refuse to give him weapons, if they refuse to give him an offensive line, you tell me that Herbert's going to be that same guy? I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but I'm saying he's definitely not going to be the star he is in Los Angeles right now. Joe Burrow, you think that if he was hated by his head coach, if he was hated by his teammates, if he was told over and over again, you're not the guy by the actions taken by the head coach, that he's going to be Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals? He's not going to be. They're not going to be the same players.
Here's my question, though. I think we're just under an assumption that, okay, Grier fan of Tua now. Is Grier a fan of Tua because what was the whole talk the whole offseason? Are we going to let the guy who picked the wrong quarterback pick the new quarterback, right? So is he a fan of Tua because he actually believes in Tua? Or is he a fan of Tua because he knows the end of Tua is likely the end of him? Right? Is it just, Tua's not playing well because Flores, this and this. I didn't want to hire Chad Gailey. I didn't want to have these two OCs. I wanted this and this year. This is Grier and Ross, this is Grier talking to Ross saying, no, Tua's poor performance isn't my fault. Who knows if he actually believes in Tua or not? We don't know that, but he has to know that the end of Tua, even if he doesn't think Tua is going to be a great quarterback, him admitting that is basically him saying, I made the wrong choice. He can't say that out loud. So all Grier could do is basically say, Tua's up and down play, it's the coach, right? So I don't think I don't think Grier and all this just means they're 100% behind Tua. It just means,
and I don't think so either, because again, Ross just said it in the press conference, is that he wants somebody to coach Tua or whoever else. Or whoever else.
That's conviction.
Okay, but you know what though? That basically says that, listen, if my new coach also says that Tua's not the guy, I'm willing to listen. But it's painfully obvious, again, Flores did not trust Tua at all, and a lot of that has to do with what happened this year. If you tell me that one game where Tua was healthy, that if we had gone with him instead of Jacoby Brissett, would we have a better shot of winning that game?
Yes, absolutely.
So
to me, that may have been where it turned, Lewis. Again, the game that Tua, we got to look back at that. The game, he was on the field in front of everybody, in front of the media, making it clear that he was healthy and he could have played in that game. Okay? I don't know. Maybe Flores thought that he showed him up there. Maybe that damaged the relationship further. Look, we talked last night, too, about this. Tua wasn't as good the last 4 weeks as he had been prior to the bye. We don't know what happened during the bye. I mean, that's part of the problem with this. I don't blame the beat writers for this. This is a COVID situation. You don't really know what's going on with teams these days. They're able to hide everything. You don't have any access. I mean, you just got Zoom calls, and they decide who's on the Zoom calls. And I'll tell you this, the Dolphins decide who asks the questions on the Zoom calls. I know, because our people didn't get in a single freaking question the entire year. We asked the first question at Heat Pressers. And anyone... Okay? They're hiding everything.
And people that are listening to the journalist thing, it's harder to set up not so much what's spoken on the record. It's, when you're around the players and the team, that's how the quote unquote sources relationship gets developed, and that's what gets put out there. It's right. Yeah. That's why you're getting stuff from Jeff Darlington today. You know why? Because Jeff was there, Shane. Jeff was there, plugged in during a time when you could actually talk to the players and the coaches, and Jeff has sources inside that organization. Most of the guys who are covering the team, there are beat writers this year who are new. They've never had in-person interactions other than the occasional after-game stuff. Like, there's 2 beat writers who are completely new. They came from different cities. They don't have sources inside the organization. At this point, the organization is able to keep everything in-house. That's the way they want things. But you know what the problem with that is? When stuff like this happens, it looks like a complete shit show. Okay? That's the problem with that. Because there's no relationships that's been built. Something that one of the beat guys, I'm not going to say which, okay? One of the beat guys said to me about halfway through the season when I went to one of the games, he said, Brian, if things go bad for Brian Flores, there's not going to be anybody here to take up for him.
For what it's worth, Omar is tweeting out that this isn't about Tua, and he's definitely not safe. Okay. So take that for what you will.
I mean, I think it all depends on what's available, right? Like, people keep asking what's Tua or not. We've obviously talked about a few of the big quarterbacks that might be available or not. yeah, I'm sure in March or April, whatever the trades start rigging, if I'm just using this is pure speculation. If Russell Wilson's people let him know that, hey, you're on the short list of cities, who is not safe at that point? If they call and say, hey, it's New York or bust, Tua might be more safe. I think those decisions, you know what I mean? We don't know. I don't think there's really good answers with that type of thing. No one's safe in the NFL. I mean, everyone's safe until a better option comes available. And that goes for every team in the league, right? So, yeah, I'm sure, and maybe they'll try and make us. I don't think this is going to stop them from making a swing at it, but I'm just curious. And like I said, my big thing is, when I first hopped on here, I didn't know what you guys said before, is just that, the Dolphins, of course, are just getting crushed by some of the national people right now.
They were going to get crushed no matter what, Shane.
Yeah,
I don't care. At this point, it's reached a point where I don't even care, because they're going to hate. They're going to hate on Miami regardless of what they do. Even if they do manage to hire Jim Harbaugh, which again I don't think they're going to, because I don't think they're even looking his direction right now. Even if they manage to hire Jim Harbaugh, the vaunted Jim Harbaugh, the legendary Jim Harbaugh, they're still going to find ways to mock them for it. Okay, because that's what they do. So now here's the thing. Players are coming out and they're tweeting that they are not happy about this firing. Nick Needham says that he's sick right now. Lynn Bowden was like, "Oh wow, this is a thing, huh?" And so a lot of the players on the
receiver that hasn't played for you. I mean, you're always,
but they talk. They talk.
Ethan, you said this last year when there was that thing. If you talk to 53 players in a locker room, you can find
53 answers,
whatever you want. Of course, I mean, you're looking at a DB, a guy that was drafted. I'm sure there's players, especially on the defensive side of ball, that aren't happy with Flores. But didn't we also hear that players weren't happy when they him and Van Noy? I mean, deleted tweets by now.
Are you ready for this? I'm gonna put this in the. I'm gonna put this here. In
deleted tweets by Omar Kelly now, but we saw yesterday he was tweeting during the game that Van Noy and Flores didn't see eye to eye. So it's like, yeah. I'm sure there were some players in that locker room that liked Flores and didn't like Flores.
And that has a lot to do with the lack of veteran players now. Because remember, I wrote the column about that too, is that there were no veteran players on this team.
Right.
And is it possible that these veteran players use veteran voices that Brian Flores doesn't like?
Well, that's a Gase thing.
Wants to do it.
That was a Gase thing. That was a Philbin thing. That both guys, they have not had head coaches who want to hear from their vets. I don't. But Shane, that gets back to your point about the Patriots, because that's a little bit of a Patriots way in the sense that veterans become expendable at a certain point. But I feel like Bill listens to them when they're there. Okay, like that's the difference. Like, they make a salary cap decision, to get rid of a guy a year early rather than a year late. They've always done that. The Steelers do that. Okay,
but the Patriots have always had those guys, those Vrabels, those you could think
Lawyer Malloy,
Rodney Harrison's,
right.
And when they had I believe Seau at the end, and they've always had those guys who would be quote unquote challenged, but you got to say you have to fall in line with the way first, right? Sometimes you hear the way because it seems like there's 18 expatriates on ESPN on all their NFL shows. Like, they preach it like it's gospel, right? Like so yes, maybe you say veterans questioning the process, and they won all the time. So when was there a time to really butt heads, right? Like,
right.
Was there ever that 6-10 season where it's like we're questioning everything that's going on, or was it just Brady leading them to the playoffs every year and you say, yeah, well, what do we got to question around here?
I gotta say, that's the best hat that's been on a stream. So we appreciate the introduction as we join in. Thoughts?
I mean, everyone who knows me knows I'm a lifelong Jets fan, but I mean, can the Dolphins be any more stupid? I don't know. I don't know if they can. I mean, I get that Brian Flores had an underperforming year. But the fact that they let him go and unceremoniously let him go is just plain stupid to me.
Why?
Who can do better?
What's anyone that makes the playoffs?
I mean, anyone that makes the playoffs, yeah. But I mean, when you had like a bunch of injuries, you had your starting quarterback out for almost a month.
The starting quarterback he didn't want.
We've been through 20 years of excuses on why things didn't happen for the Dolphins. I'm so.
I mean, I'm a Jets fan. I'm not even a Dolphins fan, so I get it.
But I just look at this. Flores' two biggest games in his career, he lost by a combined 60 points. And I'm just not going to let beating Zach Wilson, Ian Book, the Giants, and a few nice – and, people keep talking about wins over the Patriots, right? Like, this is some big thing, right? I get it. They won the Fitzpatrick game. But is wins over the Patriots the last 2 years really that big of a deal anymore? I think our view of the Patriots are so inflated now. I mean, Patriots are not a great football team. Yeah, they're going to go to the playoffs. But, I mean, they're not a great football team. Like, beating them is not the same. And even in the bad years, I mean, even Philbin got, I remember the No-Sean Marino game, the week one. We've always been able to get the Patriots. I don't know why that's such a big feather in the cap of Dolphin coaches. Like, it's always the most meaningless,
because we love watching the Patriots lose.
And and then they're always playing 5 weeks later while we're having this conversation.
Well, the Miami Miracle was the best example of that. Like literally the greatest moment in recent Dolphins history, and the Patriots went on to the playoffs after that.
The anti-Miami Miracle last night was pretty funny.
It was funny. Yeah, that was that.
They the Bills.
But you know what's going to happen, right?
Is that's the team we got to beat the next decade. Like, I don't care about beating the Patriots. I think Mac Jones is pretty average. Beat the Bills. He hasn't figured out Josh Allen in the slightest in a few games. That's more.
I mean, a lot of people haven't figured out.
Shay, let me ask you this. Does the replacement, in this case, though, does the replacement matter? Okay, because if we're we can say, okay, he didn't make the playoffs, and they were projected to make the playoffs this year. Their number in Vegas was, I believe, 9.5. Okay, they went under. Okay, barely. All right, but they were projected to be sort of on the bottom tier of playoff teams this year, somewhere between 6 and 8 range. Okay, they ended up, I don't know, maybe finished 8th, 9th. I'm not sure how it ultimately played out in the AFC. But does the replacement matter? Like, in other words, if this is another shit show search, okay, which they've had, and it's clear that they don't know where the hell they're going and that Ross had no plan B here, then how do you view it? Doesn't the next guy have to be a better option than the guy that you have to a certain degree, or does it? Or if they go get a slam, who would even be a slam dunk hire at this point? If we're not talking about Harbaugh, and I don't know that that's a slam dunk hire, by the way.
That's the problem. There's no such thing as a slam dunk hire in the NFL. It is so rare. I mean,
what if you trade a first round pick for Sean Payton? Are you doing that? Like, we talked about that earlier in the show before you came in. Is that a slam dunk hire? The guys want to.
Yeah, we've seen one coaching trade in the last 2 decades. Tony Dungy,
Gruden, yeah.
After they fired Dungy, is that the last time it's happened?
Belichick before?
But they won a Super Bowl out of it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so rare. It's like one of those things I'm not going to hold my breath for. No, I think sticking with a guy 2 years too long when he's run through 4 offensive coordinators in 3 years is worse. Then, eventually, I hate to say this, but like we keep saying, oh, they don't have a plan. If you don't have a plan, another shit show. Like, right? Maybe they walk into something, right? Like that's more of a hope than me just sticking with Flores and him saying, no, I'm not making changes. Like, if that conversation happened last night, it doesn't matter. You can go hire the DB coach off the Chargers. It doesn't matter because he has who knows what you might have in him. The unknown's better than what you know. And what you know is mediocrity and Brian Flores, I
thought Brian Flores actually was a pretty good coach. I mean, even this season, he's literally one missed field goal away from the Jaguars and being
we've been like this we're always one missed field goal away. We've been
like this so it's like, but also the fact is the Dolphins haven't won a playoff game since 2000. We all know this, right? But the fact of the matter is the fans also have to take some of the blame for the past 20 or so years. And listen to me. Let this be heard. Okay. The fans have been delusional because they still expect Dan Marino to keep walking back through that door.
I don't think so.
They still do. Or
We
they
didn't
want
Ryan
the
Tannehill.
next
No,
quarterback
no,
to
I
be
think
the
that's
next Dan
unfair.
Marino.
Ryan
But
Tannehill was the biggest.
Tua Tagovailoa, okay, Tua Tagovailoa is literally Dak Prescott 2.0. Okay, if the Cowboys can find a way to win with Dak Prescott, okay, then the Dolphins can find a way to win with Tua Tagovailoa. And why are we so pissed off at having Tua Tagovailoa being Dak Prescott 2.0?
Okay,
It doesn't make any sense.
Wait, hold
hasn't been Dak
on.
Prescott. Hold on, can I just address
wait,
something about the
I'm
fan?
gonna be back, but I'm gonna let Lewis handle that. I'm
Wait,
gonna handle some
hold
business.
on.
Lewis is jumping in on this with you guys.
No,
Hold on.
no. Hold on. It's gonna be hard pressed to find somebody who will support Tua's need for actual help than me. But you just said that Tua is Dak.
I said 2.0. I
Dak
said he's
2.0.
a young Dak Prescott.
So he's a young Dak Prescott.
Yeah,
Dak
he's
is
not like
faster, he
literally
has
Dak
a stronger
Prescott at this
arm,
moment. He is the second version of Dak Prescott.
But now I'm questioning you because you just admitted on live air that you're a Jets fan, and now I'm wondering if you want Tua to stick around because you will know that he can be beat. Okay,
No.
listen.
Look, I
listen.
want the Dolphins and
Prescott
Jets
wins
to be
20
competitive. It's good for the NFL.
Dak
It's good
Prescott
for
threw
the rivalry.
23 touchdowns
I'm
and
tired
4
of both teams
interceptions.
being shit.
No. Listen, and also I'm gonna defend the Miami Dolphins fans here. You keep saying, "Oh, they run every quarterback out of town." That's not Dan Marino.
They do.
We spent half this fan base spent 7 years defending Ryan Tannehill. That was the biggest split ever. Most Dolphin fans, there's still Dolphin fans on Twitter right now in the sphere telling you, "Oh, look at Tanny once you built the team."
I mean, look what he is doing. He's making the playoffs.
But we didn't run him out of town. We kept him around for 7 years. That's not running. There was plenty of
That's the
opportunities.
one. Okay, that's the one quarterback you haven't run out of town. Congratulations.
Okay, what other quarterback should have been around? They went 3 years with Jay Fiedler. What do we should have kept AJ Feely around for a couple more years? Sage Rosenfeld. I mean, what other quarterback should we have kept?
I mean,
John Beck.
you didn't
What
sign Drew
quarterback-
Brees. You probably would have ran him out of town too eventually.
No,
You drafted Tua Tagovailoa over Justin Herbert.
the fans didn't make that draft pick. I don't understand.
But the fans were like, "Oh, let's tank for Tua."
Yeah, because he was the number
You
two
got your
overall.
wish, and now you have to lie in bed with it.
Okay, but we're fans. We don't make the decision. We didn't put in the draft card. I
Yeah,
didn't go to
but-
the combine. I didn't watch
But
20
ownership and the
combine.
team, they do listen to their fan base. They do watch what they say because they want fans to buy tickets.
All right. Well, okay. First of all, I had this argument with someone the other day. I know a lot of people use the ticket argument. First
They
of all,
do.
2022, what owners make from tickets compared to TV dollars and other stuff is such a people talk about tickets like it's 1950. Like
I don't think.
a few Dolphin fans.
I
in the
know,
300
obviously, they make
level-
more from TV deals, but
Yeah,
at the same
come on,
time,
man.
owners would rather have butts in the seats than empty stadiums.
Okay.
Ross wants a Super Bowl ring. Okay,
Yeah.
he wants a Super Bowl ring before he dies. He doesn't care about the ticket.
I mean, if
Phil
Ross didn't
buys-
want, the fan base to have butts in the seats, then he would have left Hard Rock Stadium as it was a few years ago when there was no roof
he wanted
and no
oh my
renovations.
God. Wait a minute. Hold on. He rebuilt the stadium because he knew that if he didn't rebuild the stadium, he wasn't going to get any more Super Bowls, and it
Right.
needed to be renovated.
Yeah, it needed to be renovated.
Yes.
It needed to be renovated. So
Yes, but he
Nelson
also
is
he
hard
did, not
for
only
that.
did it to have more Super Bowls there, he also did it for the fan base because fans were complaining about the
should
stadium.
the owner not cater to
Yeah.
the fans? Like,
Yes.
screw you. I don't give a crying crap about the stadium. I'm not going to fix it or nothing. I'm just going to you sit in those old orange
Also,
seats.
you said to his Dak 2.0. I just want to go back to this. Dak, his rookie year, went 23 touchdowns and 4 interceptions and threw for almost 4,000 yards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is
he
not
was the
2.0.
starting quarterback immediately. Tua was not, so that's
Okay.
just
If
comparison.
I bet you if I extrapolate to his numbers over his first X amount of starts, it doesn't sniff what Dak did his first X amount of starts. Please find
Dak
that.
also had a better team around him at the beginning of his career.
Okay, but he's still, it doesn't matter, better team or not. He is not Dak 2.0. Dak's also about 3 inches taller.
That doesn't compute. Kyler Murray is 5'8". Who cares about height?
But I'm just making the point. He's not Dak. Like the numbers don't. The play doesn't reflect it. The numbers.
He's
I'm a
just
Tua
as
fan.
accurate as Dak Prescott.
I was a Tua stan. I'm really the last few weeks, it's been really hard to defend.
They
him.
do not play the same type of game.
Again,
if you want to talk about 2.0, I'm going to keep going and coming back to this well. Drew Brees, a not very strong-armed quarterback who makes or who ride or dies with his accuracy.
Tua's not Drew Brees.
But he's Dak.
Yes.
How? What about Dak's game and Tua's game are even remotely similar?
Yeah, they're not even close.
They're both very accurate. They both can run if needed. They both rely on a strong run game and also the fact of good outside players, good skilled outside players.
I think you just described every quarterback.
Not every quarterback. I mean, Aaron Rodgers can win with freaking nobody. Tom Brady can win with nobody.
Best receiver in the NFL.
Tom Brady cannot win Super Bowls without a top defense.
I'm not saying Super Bowls, but he can still win. He made the playoffs with N'Keal Harry as his number one receiver.
Save me, please. What the heck, man? He's telling me this guy's Dak Prescott.
Let me
take this out of the way.
I just don't believe you guys.
Yeah.
I can't
I think Tua is Dak 2.0. And you guys are pissed because you guys haven't had the weapons, the offensive line, or the running game to support that.
Can I just say one thing, being an Eagles fan? I'd watched Dak Prescott all the way back to his days at Mississippi State. I want to try to understand your comparisons and stuff, but at the same time, Tua hasn't even gotten half of what Dak's been given. Yeah. So when you say that both are the same,
I don't say that they're the same. I'm saying he can be Dak Prescott.
Oh, well, you didn't say that. You said he was.
No, he said that. No, he did say that. But, Manny, my problem is that, again, Dak's game and Tua's game are two completely different games, man.
Well, they're two different types of
quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks.
Two different types of quarterbacks. They're not even in the same zip code. Tua can be great, but he's not going to be great because
I would have thought Tua is closer to Aaron Rodgers just because Rodgers sat for a few years than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott in his rookie year threw 23 touchdown passes. 4 interceptions.
And this is why, Dolphins fans can't have nice things because you guys think he's going to be Aaron Rodgers or he should be Aaron Rodgers when literally no one is Aaron Rodgers.
No, why does it? First of all, Dolphins fans can't have nice things. We literally, half this fan base defended Tannehill for 7 years. Like, they appreciated what a lot of people appreciated.
And you made the playoffs once.
Okay, so you're saying, what quarterback has, let me ask you this. What quarterback has Dolphin fans run out of town that didn't deserve it? Like, should we have stuck with John Beck for 4 years? Like, I'm asking you, which quarterback in the last 20 years? Like, should Ray Lucas, David Heward,
those are all career backups.
Okay, then. So my question is, I'm asking you. You say we can't have nice things. Tell me a nice thing that we have had. Give me a nice thing.
You can't have nice things because you've missed opportunities to have the nice things.
Okay, that's not on the fans running them out of town. I don't make the card. I didn't select. I didn't select Jamar Fletcher.
You stuck with Ryan Tannehill, and you basically because you felt like you couldn't have anything else, and then you eventually ran him out of town. Because, Adam Gase, okay, I've experienced Adam Gase myself.
Hold on. The coach
because you think
idiots for fired is the one who got rid of Tannehill. So we didn't run him out of town. Brian Flores opted to trade him. That was asked about a week ago. Okay.
Because fans wanted him gone too. Don't act like you didn't want him gone.
Dude, okay. I mean, I don't know what nice things the Dolphins have had where the fans have run out of
I'm
town.
saying they can't have nice things because they've missed opportunities to have the nice things.
Okay.
Even if they have had nice things, they've blown it.
I didn't put in the draft card for Jamar Fletcher over Drew Brees. Okay. Like, that's not the fans' fault.
You put in the organization put in the draft card for Tua Tagovailoa over Justin Herbert.
And you know what? Here's the problem.
They signed Dante Culpepper over Drew Brees.
Every talking head out there said Tua was the number one. Said Tua was better than her. Everyone said that.
This is not a Jets versus Dolphin fan chaos.
I'm not talking. I haven't even mentioned the Jets once since I've been here.
Let's just get back to the main topic here, which basically is that this franchise drafted a quarterback to go with a head coach, and this quarterback was supposed to be together with the head coach. And after 3 years, we were now finally seeing that was never the effing case.
Now that you're here,
Justin Herbert's performance last night, I'm pretty sure made it even worse for a lot of people, right? And that was the main thing. You saw Justin Herbert convert 4th downs after 4th down on the road in the biggest game of his damn life, and you're wondering to yourself, holy shit, really? And the next day, coach, you out. Like, Jesus.
Okay, Manny, now that you're here, I actually needed to ask you something.
Yo.
Tell me about Doug Pederson.
Doug Pederson. Well,
Ooh.
Doug Pederson is a system quarterback / head coach, like he's always been. He likes to run things under his own realm now that he's won a Super Bowl. That's why there was a lot of disagreements with Howie Roseman and the upper head.
He could thank Nick Foles for that one.
Huh?
I said he could thank Nick Foles for that Super Bowl.
Correct, because I thought we would have won it with Carson Wentz. But again, listen, Doug is a player's coach, right? Players love them. Players will fight for him. I thought the same about Brian Flores. Apparently, I was wrong. But then
the players are coming out and saying
now
they're
coming out on social media. Now they're coming out on social media saying, "What the hell?" Blah, blah, blah. And I understand that, because when you work for somebody and you really, you work for them, you bust your ass, and then all of a sudden, your boss gets fired. I can see where, damn, like we were fixing this, right? We were changing things around. The most unfortunate thing is that this damn franchise for the last, our man here said it, hasn't won a playoff game in 21 years. I'm 32. I was 11 years old the last time the Dolphins won a Super Bowl.
I was 8.
Won a playoff game. It's years of frustration. So I understand Shane's argument to it, but I don't understand the aspect of, Tua. Listen, in all honesty, Tua, in my opinion, has never been given a fair shot to even try to beat
exactly
himself, right? That's my only thing. Chaos on the offensive line, no running game, total shit.
No, exactly. And I'm saying Tua could beat Dak Prescott if he had an offensive line, a solid running game, and good outside skill players.
Okay, back to
but you know what? That's every quarterback.
I'm so sorry, Louis.
Here's my problem. You know what my problem is?
Hold on.
You know how hard that is to.
Hold on, Doug Pederson. Listen, he's had the year off.
Literally not every quarterback.
I'm pretty sure he's written things down he would have done differently as a head coach. I like him because he's going to go out there and try to get you a quarterback that fits his system, and that's going to exploit that.
Okay, but wasn't Doug Pederson an RPO system?
He had to switch it to RPO with Nick Foles, yes.
Okay, but it's not his system.
It's not his system, but again, the coach for the Colts, he implemented it. Frank Wright was his offensive coordinator, and then they traded for Ajayi, and they just made this thing work after the whole thing. So
okay, so he got fired because he pissed off the owner. Is that
he
what
got
happened?
fired because he didn't want to take any more, any more rules or any more obligations.
He pissed off the ownership pretty much.
He pissed off the ownership because he felt that he was now capable of doing his own decisions without having been told what to do after being the head coach.
He Joe Girardi'd himself out.
Correct.
All right, so
but I don't blame him for that. But will he fit down here? I think he will, because he'll find himself a quarterback. Tua's could be the guy that could fit what he wants to do. Right? The defense to me is set. He's the most unfortunate part. Most of the guys love Flores.
Jim Schwartz, can he bring him back with him?
We don't know, right? Those are questions now that have to be brought. What's going to happen to this defense?
Jim Schwartz?
Does Doug Pederson get brought in and said, hey, like a John Gruden mode, don't touch the defense, fix the damn offense, and we have a winning championship football team? Hey, you never know.
Okay, so now here's the thing. So Josh Boyer, let's say they stick around with Josh Boyer, right? He was under Flores. He understands the whole Flores thing. Or
except those first.
I know. That's the question. Was it Flores fixing it, or was Boyer still involved or not?
Why not a big Fangio?
Okay, so, or again, and this is the Doug Pederson connection, Jim Schwartz. I would not lose sleep.
No.
Schwartz is burnout.
No.
He's done?
Yeah, he's done.
No.
He's done.
No.
I don't.
Jim Schwartz doesn't believe in linebacking play.
Well, I mean, the Dolphins defense doesn't function on linebackers anyway. It functions on the secondary. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham.
See, that's
Brandon Jones, Javon Holland.
If Doug Pederson gets
they don't need another defensive-minded coach.
They don't need exactly. They have
but
players.
No.
I
didn't say Schwartz as head coach. No.
Schwartz as defensive coordinator. No, I would not bring him in.
Can I caveat that? There's nothing that pisses me off that I hate when fans do this. we don't need a defensive-minded head coach. No, you just need a good head coach that hires the right people. I don't care.
Kai, I'm going to say Marvin Lewis just because I'm going to piss you off.
Like, teams always do this. We just had a defensive head coach. Now we need to go get an offensive guru. No, if the best guy available is a defensive head coach, and he's like, you know what though, I could bring in someone for my offense that's going to run my offense. That's okay. Like I just. It's the old, like, you had a skinny coach, now you hire a fat coach, skinny coach, old coach. Like, you just switch. No, you hire the best available, and if they can bring in the best assistants with them, what does it matter whether his background is defensive or offensive? Like, to me, it just like hire the best guy. I've always in college as well. It's
okay, but the argument is, Shane, you can't just say hire the best guy. The best guy is subjective. Yeah. For some people, the best guy might be the worst guy.
Whatever the organization feels, don't pigeonhole yourself by saying we need an offensive-minded head coach. Like, don't put yourself in that hole, because the best guy might be a defensive guy who maybe says, "Hey, I can be the head coach. I want to run the defense, but I also want to bring in a top-tier offense coordinator, and I don't want the same problems the last guy had. I'm just going to let this guy run the offense. I'll come over there to make sure, like, go with that,
Okay, so once again, the question becomes then, who are you hiring? Because if you want somebody who's proven to be able to fix the offense, and you're not looking for the antithesis of Brian Flores, because now you don't want an offensive-minded head coach to replace the defensive one that we just fired. Okay, that's fine. That's fine and dandy. But
I have a suggestion. And I think it should be Jim Caldwell.
I wouldn't mind Jim Caldwell, but again, Jim Caldwell is not a defensive coach. He's an offensive guy.
Yes, but he can hire the best coaches around him. I like
the idea of Jim Caldwell.
He's proven to be in this. He won with the Lions. Okay,
I'm fine.
Who
with
else
Jim
has won with the Lions?
I would love the Dolphins.
I think most fans would be if they hired him. I think a lot of people would. Like,
as far as I'm, the fact that that's the funny thing is that if everybody remembers this, I know we do. Brian Flores hired Jim Caldwell to basically be the offensive coordinator without having the title.
That is correct.
And then he got sick and he left, and so if Caldwell came back to Miami
for 3 days and was like, "Nah, I'm too experienced for this. No, like I'm not taking orders."
So
then Flores went and hired the rest of his JV bandits to run the offense, like. You had one experienced guy in there. They've talked about this on 3 reasons. They've hinted at it. It's like the whole
3 yards.
situation. 5 reasons. 3 mixed it up there.
3 yards per carry. Starring Alfredo Arteaga, Chris Kaufman, and Simon Clancy. Go follow them.
They've talked about this. That whole situation of Caldwell being here for a week is just kind of fishy, right? And then you follow it up with the whole everything else you hear about Brian Flores. You got to wonder if a guy with someone that has a really good reputation and experience around the league as Jim Caldwell got here, first-year head coach, got a whiff of things and was like, you know what? Nah, I'm not. It was just fishy. And then now we have 3 years of evidence. I tend to agree with some of those, I guess not conspiracy theories, but assumptions that maybe Caldwell just wasn't about it.
I mean, I would
say you could say that for sure.
No, it's pretty obvious that Caldwell was not into this. Like, Caldwell went in there, thought about it. It was like, nah. It's very obvious. It's not even a conspiracy. It looks painfully obvious. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that he faked getting sick. He got sick, but the fact that he didn't come back after he was better, that was the proof positive. It was like he had no interest in coming back to the Dolphins, 0. And so now, if we give him a head coaching position, I mean, and here's the thing: Grier and Ross are already familiar with Caldwell because he was in that building. He was essentially on staff. So, if Caldwell gets hired, I would hope that he can work with Tua, because that means that we don't have to send those extra resources to get a new quarterback. But Ross also said that whoever is hired will be able to make the decision on whether they keep Tua or not. And he says no, then that's it for Tua. He's done. That's the end of the discussion.
I think it's all but guaranteed the Dolphins are going to sniff around big quarterbacks.
Well,
I don't know about Watson. But
they
they're
almost
going to.
always sniff around the big quarterback.
Well, I don't. If they, well,
I mean, I
Watson
think
wanted to come
all
for
31
Flores, so
teams
that's
will.
done.
I
Watson
think pretty much.
Watson either wanted to come for Brian Flores or he wanted just Miami. And if that's the case, then I would be even more suspicious about why he wants Miami. But that's a different story.
You're obligated as a general manager to just make your phone calls if Russell Wilson demands a trade or if the Aaron Rodgers situation goes back to where it was last. You're obligated.
Well,
to make
Rodgers
that
is going to be a free agent.
You wouldn't be doing your job.
Rodgers is like, I'm pretty sure they cut down Rodgers to only 1 year. Like after this is it. Like he's done. He's either going to retire or he's a free agent.
Rodgers is on his way out.
But
like this is his last dance.
I don't know.
Do you guys think in hindsight now, and this can be the final thing before I have to jump off, do you think in hindsight now, and especially with some of Chan Gailey's comments this past offseason, that Tua's, and I don't know if this has been stated before, so sorry if I missed this, that Tua starting was forced on Brian Flores last year? Then it may be Brian Flores along with Gailey, because Gailey said that, I was surprised, like we weren't even like. It really feels that way, doesn't it? That maybe that's the point last year and then you have the whole benching and I'm going to bring Flores, Fitzpatrick off the bullpen. It felt like that was the point when they forced, because like they said, Gailey said, we were winning games and stuff like that. And you don't think if Gailey was and Flores were on the same page of that. At that point right there is when things soured. When maybe Flores was forced to start to play Tua. And then at that point, Flores almost in a way rebelled. And we saw that with the whole not letting him play through and bring it. But then again, I think hiring Gailey in the first place was a way to rebel against Tua. So I really wonder if at that point is where it kind of soured.
Who's to say that Tua and Chan weren't really, maybe they were working together and then something happened along the ways. And then now this season, the true colors came out that Flores never really trusted Tua, right? So then we want to say, well, it's Chan Gailey, right? He was the one that's holding everything back. But then you realize what happened this season and you can't fathom not to question it. Well, maybe last year it was Flores that didn't, didn't agree with having Tua out there. But, he was. I
didn't want Tua out there either. If you guys remember, I'm on the record saying I wanted Tua to sit the year. I didn't want Tua out there. So, and it has nothing to do with whether I had trust in Tua or not. It was just a question of I didn't want him to play until Fitzpatrick's time had come to an end.
Let's be clear.
Fitzpatrick was leading the team.
The offensive line yet settled.
I definitely think they rushed Tua for sure.
Yeah, because and that you could argue is a Ross thing. You could argue that's definitely a Ross thing, is that Ross wanted his top 5 draft pick to be the guy that makes everybody excited. And everybody was excited when Tua went in. Everybody was thrilled. Everybody was excited. And if you could honestly, I'm going to say this, you could honestly make the argument that Tua had more success in Gailey's system than in the Godsey, Stutesville, Fry plan, because Tua was taking shots to Gesicki. Tua was taking shots to Parker. This new offense, Tua doesn't take shots to nobody.
Tua took shots to Matt Hollins.
Well, you know what? And the funny thing is every time he takes a shot to Mac Hollins, we either get a flag or he catches it. So,
by the way, for all of our listeners right now and watchers, I just posted ex-coach Brian Flores' last media presser of last night's game against the Patriots. It's on our 5 reasons page. So if you guys want to see, I actually just went through it. Kind of the answers that he was giving, I guess the answers to questions he was given to. I can see his facial expression like he knew something was behind it. Now, obviously, live last night, you wouldn't have thought that him being fired was going to be even possible. But then you look at his facial expression to certain answers he's given, and he was probably told, hey, it's 50-50 right now. And then obviously now we know what happened. So, but yeah, go and check that out. Also, the Tua presser is also up there.
Yep.
All right, guys, I'm out.
All right, Shane.
All right, Shane. Hey, Shane, calm down. The Florida Panthers play hockey tomorrow. It's all good, brother.
Hey, the best, two best athletes in South Florida, Barkov and Huberdeau, will be on the ice. See you guys.
All right. Ethan just said he will be returning. That's great. We're all
Yes, I hear that Hussam is coming briefly.
coming on,
Supposedly,
Jock.
Jakari's coming in.
I would
Supposedly,
love to get Jock's analysis on this.
Oh no, Jock is about ready to rip Grier
Yeah.
a new one. Like he's going to go ballistic. In fact, we may have to flag this video for inappropriate language. Like when Jock gets in here, so
That doesn't surprise me.
it's gonna be.
Wow.
Jock feels like this was a big, and I mean a big mistake. And again,
I think it is too.
I mean, I don't have strong feelings about it one way or the other, because during the 7th game losing streak, we wanted the whole front office to go. Like, I remember that. We wanted Flores fired. We wanted Grier fired. We wanted everybody fired. And then things started to go up a little bit. And then we were kind of like, okay, well, maybe, yeah.
The Dolphins are finally beating teams that they were supposed to beat in the first place.
So, yeah. And again, a lot of other teams, people are saying, why did the Dolphins do this? And I understand both sides of the argument. I really do. I really do understand both sides of the argument, because on the one hand, Brian Flores did lead them to back-to-back winning seasons for the first time since 2002, 2003. I get all that. I understand. On the other hand, there was a lot of stuff about Brian Flores that drove me up a wall. And I've said it many times. Manny, you've heard me say it over and over again. The personnel decisions, his lack of support for his quarterback.
He definitely underperformed as a coach this year. He regressed.
Well, I will. And listen, I'm going back to what Shane said in the two most crucial games last year in Buffalo and then this season against Tennessee. You kind of want to scratch your head a little bit of the game plan, especially in the offensive side. Like 2 weeks prior, you just ran the ball down with Duke. And then the following week, you only scored 13 points against New Orleans and had like 8-9 starters out. But again, you won the football game. That's all that matters. You knew, and we talked about this, Lewis, on that post that Monday night going into Tennessee. You wanted to have the same solid defense go at it, but this offense had to somewhat get it going, be more consistent. Run the football. Help out your damn quarterback for a change. Do something that's going to spark the offense, right? And it just felt like after that deep ball that they try to hit to Waddle, and maybe he caught it, maybe don't. I don't really recall if he did. But then the offense wasn't the same anymore, and it all broke down after that. And then all of a sudden it's just, hey, two most crucial games in his tenure as Dolphins head coach, and Shane said it, he's been outscored by 40 points or whatever. That's not going to get it done.
No, it's not going to get it done. And again, the fix would have been, because remember, we the report was that Flores was asked, make changes to your staff, fix the weak points on your staff. Supposedly Flores said no. And that had a lot to do with the fact that he got fired. Again, why the loyalty to these guys was his downfall. If you really think about it, Flores.
Sparky, welcome to the NFL, Sparky.
Flores was given a choice: either get some guys who can get the job done, or you're gone.
But I don't understand this mentality of having two offensive coordinators in the same room. I don't know. It just feels like there's too many voices.
Because
too many butting heads.
Godsey and Stootsville were both his guys. They were both his guys, and Flores felt they both deserved it. And so, regardless of the situation, neither Godsey nor Stootsville has proven that they have what it takes to be an offensive coordinator. Neither of them. And so, again, the situation comes down to make some changes to your staff. By the way, again, Lemuel Jean-Pierre, the offensive line coach, he was the only guy that I saw whose transcripts were missing from the Miami Dolphins website. They never posted his press conference. They never posted his transcripts. And it had a lot to do with the fact he was asked a very simple question. How have you managed to help the offensive line improve this season? He didn't have an answer for it. Lemuel Jean-Pierre should have been the first guy fired off this whole staff. Like, he should have been fired that same day for what he did there. Because that looks god-awful on the whole thing.
Yeah, and again, the guy never had a clue in the first place.
He never had a clue. And again, the question becomes, Flores was asked, make changes, which I guarantee you included Lemuel Jean-Pierre.
Sure.
And Flores said
and
no.
Probably his
Flores said no.
To make some changes.
It was very easy to do. All you had to do was fire the guys who proved they were not it. Lemuel Jean-Pierre had no experience as an offensive line coach. Zero. And you brought him in anyway to be the guy.
Yeah, that's going to be bad. It's going to be looking bad.
And not only that, you went ahead and decided you were going to go down with the ship instead of finding somebody who actually has a little bit of experience.
Louis, we have somebody joining us on
Yes.
this side. I have no idea who that is. Please identify yourself.
So person on the call who has the blank icon. Oh, it's Hussam. Hi, Hussam. How are you?
What's up, guys?
He's like, he just been. How are you, man? I know that you're kind of on voice only right now. I think you're in your car, you're driving. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let's get your thoughts. Brian Flores has been fired. What do you think?
I was at work, right? Almost about to get out, but then something else happened, and I check my text, and I see my brother, who, Manny, is a pretty big Eagles fan, text me LOL, and I'm like, okay, what's so funny about this? It's an Adam Schefter tweet. I'm like, okay, maybe Matt Nagy got fired. Turns out Matt Nagy did get fired, and I see Brian Flores gets fired, and I'm like, what the F just happened? And I'm reading all these reports, and I'm looking at my DMs from a couple people and other sources, and I'm reading everything, and I'm just the buildup of what everybody has talked about silently over what was going on within this Dolphins organization. It was just a giant power struggle between what was happening with the quarterback of the team, the head coach of the team, and the general manager of the team. Like, none of these guys were ever on the same page, and they brought up this facade where everything was okay. Everybody has been reporting there is something going on there, whether it's, the staff isn't doing well, the players are a little bit unhappy, but when I'm reading the timeline, looking at Instagram and what the players are posting out, they can't believe that Brian Flores got fired, Like, it's shocking. Like, this is the guy who, yes, was part of a team that had to tear everything down, rebuild, just had no expectations heading into 2020 and soared with a rookie squad and some street veterans. And then in 2021, underwhelmed at the beginning of the season, and then somehow rallied off 8-1 the last 9 games. Like, it is a little bit unexpected over what happened, because initially the thought was, okay, maybe they'll run it back. There are some positives going after this, but it's just a lot of stuff that's coming out, which is, it's a two-way street. Like, Brian Flores not liking Tua Tagovailoa as a quarterback and advocating for Deshaun Watson, the players wanting Coach Flores, Grier being the main supporter of Tua Tagovailoa, and Stephen Ross, ultimately the decision maker on this. I do believe he listened to the wrong guy and made the wrong move over firing Brian Flores, because he's going to become the next hot head coaching commodity. I mean, look what he did with this Dolphins team. Sure, okay, players might not like the coach, but it's the coach's job to make sure, hey, I really don't care if you like me or not. You got to do your job. It's simple as that. They're grown men doing their job, and they have to do it. But it's just speechless is the word, Louis.
All right.
I get.
So again, the question becomes, though, a lot of people are saying this was a mistake. I know Jakari thinks that this was a big mistake, and hopefully he's going to come in any minute now. I welcome Ethan back into the show. He's the head guy. I mean, I have to welcome him, It's like he can get me off of here in a heartbeat. But anyway, Hussam was just saying that speechless was the word to describe his thoughts. I was actually going to bring this up again because I talked about this just a little bit earlier. Again, the reports is that Flores was basically giving an ultimatum. You need to get rid of some of your crappy assistants, Lemuel Jean-Pierre, whose transcripts were conspicuously missing from the Dolphins website, or you're gone. And I guess he chose to be gone. So, again, while I understand the Brian Flores positives, there are a lot of negatives that I can point to and say he wasn't going to back down from this. He was not going to hire a new offensive coordinator. He was not going to hire new offensive line coaches. He was not going to bring in people that we know for a fact can get the job done. He was going to continue to stick with the guys that we know for a fact are not good at their job. And not only that, again, yes,
because he said that he wants to keep that continuity, but
the continuity is
that
garbage.
Continuity is not working, and it's not showing growth. It's not showing potential.
Right.
What
Again, the situation was Flores did not want anybody who could challenge his authority. He needs an offensive coordinator who he doesn't have to worry about whether the offense is going to have an opportunity to be good. Somebody like, heck, even somebody like a Matt Nagy could have done it. Somebody like a Jim Caldwell could have done it. He tried to bring him in, and then Caldwell was like, I ain't doing this.
Right.
Somebody like a Doug Pederson could have done it, but again, that would have been a challenge to his authority. So instead, you went with, you pulled Chan Gailey out of the retirement home because Gailey, even though he's experienced, he wasn't challenging anybody for head coaching roles. He was brought in to work with Ryan Fitzpatrick more than anything else. And I see that, then again, I understand that a lot of players are coming out. Apparently, Devontae Parker's upset. I know that Ethan pointed out that Udonis Haslam from the Miami Heat, the Heat legend, is like, oh, no, this was a bad idea. And I get that. A lot of players.
Hunt is upset.
Robert Hunt is upset. Yes.
Needham is upset.
A lot of guys are upset. So
they should be.
And yeah, a lot of them are really big fans of Flores. And I get it. I understand why they feel this way. But Flores, in part, brought this on himself. He was given the option, find a new staff. A staff that we can say is worth looking at and saying, this will be able to fix the problem. He said no.
His unwillingness to adapt was his downfall.
Unwillingness to adapt. He was going to ride or die with his guys, regardless of how good or how bad they were. Lemuel Jean-Pierre made himself look like a fool the other day. There's no other way to describe it. And he refused. He refused.
Yeah, but Lewis, to the point that Shane was making when he was here earlier, and I appreciate Hassam, you look good. The point that Shane was making when he was here earlier was that, and we appreciate the donations. Let me read this before we get to the point. John Mullen, all donations, we always read them here. This is amazing. If you're Tua, you want the hell out of this mess. Yes. Maybe you want out of this mess less. I don't know.
Well, it depends on who the new coach is.
Right. I mean, maybe if he viewed Flores as a problem.
Well, is Tua even safe?
That's the question. Yes.
Well, Ross certainly didn't put his arms around him. I mean, that's for sure. But to the other point that you're making, Lewis, about the staff, again, we talked about this last night. If people were listening on Final Yard, that Ross would need to tell Flores there are some coaches that need to be changed here. But I agree with Shane. Sometimes you ask a question when you know what the answer is going to be. And if Ross had already made a determination at 1-7 that this guy was going, unless he miraculously made the playoffs, which at that point seemed like totally impossible, right? I mean, then if you won the Tennessee game,
he almost pulled it off.
He almost pulled it off, but if you made that decision then, but now you need a reason, but you know that your coach is loyal to some of these guys, you ask him a question that he's going to say no to. That's what you do. So look. I think Flores has a blind spot for offensive coaches. Brian Flores is not a finished product as a head coach, okay? He's not perfect. We all agree about that. But to me, he's better than the last guy, okay?
Yeah.
And he was better than the guy before that.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
I will agree on both fronts on that.
Okay, so if I was to poll that right now, what do you think the fans would say to this? If I was to say, who was the best coach of these guys for the Dolphins? Gase? I'm not going to put Tony Sperano in there. May he rest in peace. Okay, and I have very, very warm feelings for Tony. But if you're going to say Philbin, Gase, or Flores, who was the best coach for the Dolphins? What do you think this is going to come in at? 90%, 100%?
Flores. Anybody who voted for Gase is lying to themselves.
Oh, I'm going to do it right now.
I will say over 80% Flores.
And what's going to happen to this defense now? Like, are they going to keep running this cover zero? Are they going to change schemes? Are they going to change strategy? Does the personnel change? Do the players change? Is this basically is this a soft reset, a hard reset? Like, what is going to happen? What is the most logical outcome.
Okay. So,
for this
but
team.
again, this is the situation right now, and this is what I was saying a little bit earlier, is that there are a lot more defensive-minded coaches floating around who will take coordinator positions than there are offensive-minded guys willing to take coordinator positions. All the offensive guys, guys, they don't want to be head coaches. A lot of the defensive guys, they kind of don't mind. It's kind of a weird mentality change. Like a lot of the defensive guys, they don't mind being coordinators so much. Like I think Rex Ryan is like the one exception to that rule. Is like I'm a head coach or bust.
A lot of these young offensive guys, they want to be like the next Matt LaFleur or Sean McVay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so now you have Mike Zimmer, you have Vic Fangio. They're both floating around. I think
Zimmer would be a good fit here, to be honest with you.
Zimmer as a defensive coordinator or head coach? I think defensive coordinator. I don't necessarily want him
defensive
as
coordinator, obvious fit, yes.
You could promote Gerald
I could say
Alexander.
you could say either or.
The other thing is Gerald Alexander. I wouldn't mind him as a defensive coordinator over Josh Boyer, not gonna lie. Alexander has a fantastic relationship with his secondary guys, and he can witness firsthand how this defense functions and how best it can work. I wouldn't mind even a little bit if Boyer got fired and Alexander became the defensive coordinator instead. Like that would be a fantastic move, honestly. As for the head coaching position, Alfredo's pointing it out now. Big fans of Tua apparently include Brian Daboll and Lane Kiffin. Well, Daboll's been floated around as a potential head coaching candidate for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
As for the Lane Kiffin thing, yeah, I mean, maybe Daboll can be the head coach and Kiffin can be the offensive coordinator. I don't know, but
that would be fun. But the fundamental flaw is, again, to Brian Daboll, is that he reverts to the pass much more often than the run. So if you want to stay committed to the run game, Brian Daboll is not that guy.
Okay, well, you know what though?
That guy.
You know what though, Hussam? Let's be real about something. It feels like every offensive-minded coach now is defaulting to the pass because that's just how the game has evolved. It's very often now. It's much less about running the ball 20 times a game than it is about throwing the ball 50 times. Mm-hmm. They would much rather throw the ball, even short passes like the way Tua's done it, than they would just to hand it off to their running back because it's just the way that it's done now. It's the flashy thing to do. It's the way that the game
fantasy football era.
It's the way that the game has changed.
By the way, I've polled this, guys. So you want the early results?
Sure.
Sure. Go ahead.
Joe Philbin got 0.4%. That one precinct has reported. Adam Gase 4.2%. Adam Gase is at 4.2%, and Brian Flores is at 95.4%. I think Vontae Davis voted twice for Philbin. But other than that, that's
somebody voted Philbin just to troll. Yeah, absolutely.
That's where we're at with that. I'm going to mention a couple of our sponsors, Lewis, before you go on, just because, and we're not going to go all day because Lewis, you got things to do. We all got things to do, and Donald's going to be on here at 3:00. So we appreciate everybody joining. But Alice is going to pick up the show from here. Do want to mention we got a new sponsor here. Check these guys out. It's called Solis. If you're an endurance runner, this is the stuff for you. It replaces your electrolytes. So go to Get Solis, LAIS, getsolis.com. Use code 5RSN. You can also use that code for 25% off at therapistpreferred.com for your CBD and at 20% off at manscaped.com. So we appreciate you supporting our sponsors. That allows us to continue to produce content here. I'll go to Hussam. I wasn't here when you jumped in, so I just want to get your one thought on this. Do you think Steve Ross has a plan?
Judging based on his history, no.
I'm just saying, right? Yeah. I mean, do you think he has a plan? Do you think there's been something in mind here? If he made a decision, as I believe, to fire Brian Flores a long time ago and was just waiting for the final answer so that he could do it, it means he has to have had a plan for the last 2 months, right? I mean, since 1-7.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, most sane business people would have a plan. Do you think he has a plan?
I honestly, based on the timing of everything, I do not think Stephen Ross has a plan, but Chris Grier does. And from what the decision making was behind this, I do believe that Stephen Ross is fully behind Chris Grier, and Chris Grier has the plan to find the next head coach and find the coordinators along with this staff, and that's what worries me a little bit. Look, you can question Grier's talent scouting. Yeah, he's got some good hits. He's also had some bad misses. But a general manager is supposed to scout talent for on the field, not necessarily for head coaching jobs or head coaching positions. You have guys who are decent to mid-level coordinators throughout the NFL, and then you have college guys as well. Now, if you're trying to bring in a college guy, let's say somebody like a Luke Fickell, maybe Lane Kiffin, or God forbid if I'm even saying this, Bill O'Brien, who was with Alabama. You have to vet them. You have to see what kind of offensive philosophy they want to bring in. And then you have to go from there. How are they going to scheme around Tua Tagovailoa if he will be the quarterback? What's their plan for this defense with this players? What's their plan for free agency and how to attack this draft? So I think that Ross is delegating all of this to Chris Grier.
Well, yeah, Chris Grier is basically going to ride or die with this now. This is Chris Grier's team, beyond a shadow of a doubt. This is Chris Grier's decision, ultimately.
So you want a guy with no accountability who's running your organization. Chris Grier has no accountability. He just, to anybody, it seems like. Like, it's just, I mean, he doesn't meet with the media. He doesn't explain decisions.
I mean, it's not a question of...
He just skates, man. He just skates. He's skated for 15 years. Like, I mean,
Ethan, can you tell
what's that?
Ethan, can you tell Pat Riley to run the Dolphins and spell runs the Heat?
Can
you tell Pat Riley to run the Dolphins and spell runs the Heat?
Well, it's just a philosophical...
He wouldn't have any rings to show.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's a good point. I mean, the problem is it's a philosophical thing. It's the way that you structure your organization and the way that you give trust to the right people. And that's the model that they've just never followed. When they tried, look, it was tried prior to Ross. We've discussed this. You tried Saban, you tried Parcells, and they came down and they weren't into it. I mean, just simply the way that they needed to be. This is from Michael Regalado. We obviously appreciate the donation. So Eric Bieniemy is the answer, especially for Watson. I mean,
but again, the question: Eric Bieniemy wasn't the guy Watson wanted to play for.
I know, it was Flores. So
again, I say, if this is speaking strictly for Flores, if the Texans have any brains left at all, they will hire Brian Flores as the head coach today.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And they will say here,
today.
Yes, today. They will hire him today. They will not even interview him. They will say, "Get your tail over here."
They don't need to.
They will get on their hands and knees and beg Watson for forgiveness.
But Lewis,
they will bring in Flores.
Oh God, Alex Johns, bring back
there.
Case. We've officially gone too far in this programming. We've got to bring back. Is that the first one of those?
Lewis, he said he's not going to play it down for Cal McNair as long as he's the owner.
But Brian Flores though. So again, that's the last ditch effort for the Texans. If you bring in the coach that Watson is on record wanting more than anything, he said he wanted to play for Flores. He didn't say he wanted to come to Miami.
I think they're interconnected.
We'll see. We'll see. But he said he wanted to play for Brian Flores.
So,
if the Texans hire Flores and they go to Watson and say, "Listen, we listened to what you said. You wanted to play for this guy. We just hired this guy. Will you come now?"
So get this, Lewis. This was just tweeted out a couple of minutes ago by Adam Beasley. And he's saying that I would expect the Dolphins to have renewed interest in Saints defense coordinator Dennis Allen.
He was a finalist. He was a surprise finalist the last time.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
and if he wants to bring in an offensive staff coming from Sean Payton's tree, I would not be opposed to it.
Okay, but all right, but here's the problem. Once again, Dennis Allen, he has plenty of defensive coordinator experience. He has limited experience as a head coach for the Oakland Raiders. But again, who is he bringing in though as that staff? Is it more rookies? Is it more guys that are under Sean Payton, but the real genius is Sean Payton, and it has really nothing to do with any of those assistants? See, that's the problem that I have. And by the way, the New Orleans Saints, excuse me, ever since Drew Brees retired last year, they have not looked like no offensive juggernaut. They tried Jameis Winston. They tried Trevor Siemian.
Well, Jameis got hurt, so I can't really say.
Jameis was garbage.
He was okay. He was
garbage.
He was fine.
Ethan, do you know how many times Jameis Winston screwed up my prize picks?
I understand that, but I'm just saying he was better than
he was actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, Chris Sims loves Taysom Hill. Come on. Chris Sims loves
handing it off to Alvin Kamara.
I mean, anyone looks good handing it off to Alvin Kamara. Let's be real.
Have you looked at the Saints' injury reports like throughout the season? They are battered with injuries throughout the offensive line and the defense and the secondary. Like, and this was a bad Saints team that almost made the playoffs in the NFC.
But how much of that is Peyton's structure there? I mean, part of my thing is this. Like, it seems like the same thing we did with the Patriots. It's like, well, okay, you're gonna go get somebody from this person's tree, but you're not getting the person who actually built the fucking tree, right? Like, and so I mean, let me pose this question to you, Lewis, and Sami, all guys. Would you prefer to give a first round pickup for the rights to Sean Payton, or would you prefer to hire Dennis Allen for free?
Sean Payton.
Without
even blinking. Sean Payton.
Yeah, without, like, if any team that hires Sean Payton, they're automatically in playoff contention.
That treasure trove of picks they wanted to trade Watson for, I'll give that to the Saints for Payton instead.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Don't let the Jets guy out again. Speak for yourself here. Defend yourself.
I really don't care what people say. I know my Jets suck. You can move on.
I mean, you've suffered through more, probably.
Yeah.
We can have a debate here, but you've suffered through more.
Which team has suffered more? At least you guys have had glimmers of hope. Okay.
False hope.
I'm just, you know.
I mean, Mark Sanchez made an AFC Championship game. That's and then
two. Let's be real. He made two.
And then the Dolphins took Tannenbaum off their hands.
He's 1-0 against Bill Belichick in the playoffs. The Dolphins are.
That's true. That's step kept pushing. All right, listen.
I appreciate everyone. Put out a statement thanking the organization, his leadership, service. I believe in this team and will always value the relationships my family and I made there.
All right, so basically he's taking the high road. He's not going to come out and say that this was a mistake and they'll regret this decision. You know,
are any media guys taking up for him? I'm just curious because that's something that one of the beat guys said to me halfway through the year.
I know. First Take was having
every
something
single
on
national
it.
media person is saying that this was a mistake. Local.
Nah, not really.
Dang, CK just
I haven't
went
really
on
heard
a
anything.
full
OJ McDuffie,
paragraph.
does he count?
I mean, kind of. I mean, kind of, sort of. You're
asking for local guys. OJ is technically a local guy.
I mean, OJ works for the team, but I mean, at this point, but I would say.
But he's pissed. He hates this
move. Well, I will.
He has to be mad at somebody.
I will be curious what JT says because JT has not held back on the radio broadcast. So I will be curious what his reaction is. He'll probably stay quiet for a couple of days, knowing him, but it'll build up a little bit. But I mean, any of the other guys, one of Flores' mistakes, in my view, was that he did not cultivate the local media. Gase did a really good job of that. He probably kept him around for another year. Flores did not do that, and I was told that would hurt him at this stage. And it hurts you when you get the next job, too, because you want guys pumping you up. And the national media likes him. The national media liked Gase also, so we'll see how that plays out.
But Gase is not a coach
I
anywhere.
know. Well, he's coaching in high school. He's coaching in high school, isn't he?
High school. Those are the only ones who listen to him.
It's probably true. I think they should make a run at Saban again. Why not? See if his wife likes Fort Lauderdale better the second time around.
Just
what did CK do?
Alfredo, we need to highlight this Alfredo thing again.
Just put it.
The Dolphins alumni are pissed off, and Alfredo's very happy about this.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like the Canes alumni. Like this is like what we do. It's this cycle, and everybody gets upset. Nothing actually. I mean, with Cristobal, that's who they all wanted, but like it's the same thing. It's just this cycle of misery. Somebody tweeted and I put it on my Instagram page. It's the cycle of misery for this team. It's what happens every 3 years, literally. Like every 3 years, we get the exact same thing. It's you beat New England, you miss the playoffs. People, the coach and the GM are blaming each other behind the scenes. The owner doesn't want to hear it anymore. The owner decides to change course completely. It's the same thing. Same
so
thing.
I want to read something from our 5 Reasons Dolphins chat. This is not the OnlyFans, which by the way you should absolutely get onto if you really want some insider knowledge. But I will go ahead and tweet. I will go ahead and read this just because it's Chris Kaufman.
It's
doing
long.
His thing. CK always has great threads, but he never actually
threads them.
Okay.
No,
Yeah,
I know.
All right. So this is Chris Kaufman officially. This is talking about this ended up a power struggle between Chris Grier and Brian Flores, but Grier gets to point out a bunch of things though. So basically, this is the devil's advocate in favor of Chris Grier. Number 1, again from CK Parrott. Number 1, Flores is the one that doesn't like to spend resources on running backs. We've lamented this a long time. Grier is a collaborator, so he does definitely try and take direction from the head coach on his wants. So they're saying Flores is the reason why we're sticking with Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed, and then we have to pull off the street Philip Lindsay and Duke Johnson, and immediately they look better. Number 2, Eric Flowers is a high-performing guard in Washington. Why isn't he a high-performing guard in Miami? Because Flores insisted that Grier trade him because Flores, and this was reported as well, so it's true, Flores has final say on the 53-man roster. Grier gets to say, I picked that guy, he's a good player, and Flores screwed it all up. So, yes, remember, I was not that thrilled about the Eric Flowers trade either when it happened. It's like you basically paid him to leave. Why? If nothing else, he should have been a backup. If nothing else, he should have been as a depth player. And the way that things turned out, he would have instantly been a starter again anyway. Number 3. Remember the Minkah Fitzpatrick situation. Player with a reputation for being a coach's favorite suddenly says no and won't stop making noise until he's traded somewhere else, where he becomes an all-pro safety. You can lay that at Flores. And Grier gets to say, I picked that guy and he's an all-pro. So Flores moved Minkah around, used Minkah in ways he didn't like to be used. You can argue that that's the case. So yes, Flores is to blame for the Minkah Fitzpatrick thing. It's not like Chris Grier was the one telling him what to do. Number 4, when Noah Igbenogany was drafted, and this is coming from CK, he was this is a long time ago now, so I guess it's okay to say, he was told by someone that Flores loved Igbenogany, which kind of makes sense. That's his MO, the secondary.
Right.
So Flores loved Igbenogany. And that's one of the 3 first-round picks that's commonly cited as a reason why Grier should be fired, because they picked Noah Igbenogany. And instead
can I break in and I want you to read the rest of it. This is Spielman Wannstedt all over again.
They wanted Igbo as a slot corner.
Yeah, this is Rick Spielman calling me to his office to show me his charts. Okay, when he was trying to get Dave fired instead of himself. And to show me his charts, to show me that he had Anquan Boldin rated as a 1.19. I'll never forget this. That meant the 1.9 is a late first-round pick, 1.9. And he had Eddie Moore as a 1.31, high third-round pick. But he goes, Dave made us pick him. This is exactly the same thing. I mean, we are repeating the cycle, the Tannenbaum cycle, the Mueller-Saban cycle, the Ireland Sperano cycle. This is just total weak sauce from the Dolphins again. I mean, I understand what CK's saying. I get it. But, so
you're not buying it?
No, I mean, I think that there's a case to be made against some of the decisions that Brian Flores made. I'm not arguing that. But I don't understand why they can't ever just get aligned on things. I mean, why should this even be coming out now? Any of this stuff. That's the thing. It's just everybody's out to save their hides instead of win games. That's the problem with this freaking organization.
I mean, well,
no accountability.
Lewis. Again, I don't want to bring.
Every organization wants to save their job. Every organization wants to find a way to save their job.
I've covered 2 organizations in 25 years. It does not happen in the other one. I don't hear Pat wanted this guy, but Spo wanted this guy. Okay,
basketball's a different animal.
No, but you hear it in other basketball organizations. Like it's just everybody. There's no accountability here. Like it's just it drives me insane.
It's not even but Ethan, accountability. No one, and I mean no one, questions Pat Riley. He is the guy. Pat Riley is the Heat.
But he's fucked up some things. I mean, but it doesn't get out.
But he has a track record of success.
I know.
He has more successful things than
Ethan,
crappy things.
Yeah.
Ethan Lewis, I got a question for you guys, and this is being floated around, but apparently there's something going on that Flores and Tua screamed at each other after the Titans.
Yeah, we discussed that.
Yeah, we already discussed that.
We discussed that.
Darlington said it. Jason Sarney's been saying it for a while that they didn't like each other, and now it's just.
And in the offseason, they made Tua take 4 random PED tests.
That we hadn't heard.
Integrity.
That we had not heard. But
it's been
that
floating
doesn't that doesn't even make a lick of sense. Like what like you if that's the case, then again I would say yeah, that's pretty scummy. Like why are you making your quarterback just take a bunch of PED tests? Like you truly believe that he cheated his way through college or something? Like because that's kind of what it sounds like.
Or he's finding an excuse not to play him.
But then he would have to have a positive test, wouldn't he?
Yeah. But I mean, like the slightest.
So he'd rather roll with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, because they know each other from New England.
Mm-hmm.
Jacoby Brissett and Brian Flores are well acquainted with each other.
As stupid as it sounds, that is right.
All right, you know what? Let's get Lewis. We've got 5 minutes left, and then we'll close it because I want to let everybody get our stuff. Nick, appreciate you joining. Hussam, the disembodied voice of Hussam, joining us. By the way, you can catch Nick Marlin's coverage here because I mean, there's got to be more than one dysfunctional organization that we can cover here in town. And thanks always to Lewis for holding it down. Check out Lewis's pieces on the site, not just the one about today, but also the 5 things that they should do this offseason, and also a piece on Duke Johnson we reported last night. The Dolphins, and I don't know how this changes things, but the Dolphins do want Duke to come back. They expressed that to him. He wants to explore his options. So he could come back, but it's not necessarily the case. But you want to throw a couple more comments on here just to close this thing, and we'll address them. And I mean, obviously, anybody has any super chat comments, we'll definitely take it as well. Thank you, Hussam. Appreciate it.
I just find it interesting what CK's comments boil down to, because again, this is the devil's advocate part of it, right? This is where Flores you can't excuse Flores for some of this stuff. So this is why it just feels like, yes, you can definitely argue the firing was unjustified, but there are plenty of reasons why you can argue it was justified. There are plenty of reasons. And Alfredo saying that now Tua's people are starting to go on their roll. Like, I imagine so. I imagine Lee Steinberg is going out there and saying a whole bunch of stuff pretty soon. Like, he'll be coming out with statement after statement about how Flores absolutely wrecked Tua's career before it even had the chance to take off. I'm sure that that's going to be the case. Mm-hmm. So now, again, whether you believe Tua is the guy or not, and we said this earlier, you can't argue that Tua has not been given the same amount of support that the likes of Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow have been given.
True.
You can't argue that. Joe Burrow was given an incredible wide receiver core. T. Higgins, I'll take T. Higgins over almost everybody on this roster right now. Jamar Chase is an absolute stud. He has a coach that believes in him, or at the very least pretends to believe in him, because Flores couldn't even do that much for Tua. As for Herbert, I'll take Keenan Allen over anybody on this roster. Mm-hmm. I would take Mike Williams in a heartbeat over Devontae Parker. He has an incredible running back in Austin Eckler. Miami had to pick up Duke Johnson off the street. Their offensive lines are comparable. They're comparable. They're not great, neither of them. But Herbert is more physically gifted than Tua. So he can kind of make things work a little bit easier for himself by just using sheer athleticism. But even then, he's given more support than Tua. Mm-hmm. So we're mad at Tua for not being Herbert and not being Burrow, but it's not like in a vacuum, you can obviously tell they've been given the same support. it's painfully obvious that they were not given the same support. And if Tua does go somewhere else, if he's given an offensive line that's even average, if he's given weapons on par with what Herbert and Burrow have been given, and not only that, an offense that does not look anemic regardless of who the quarterback is, because it's not like Jacoby Brissett came in here and suddenly lit up the NFL. It was trash. It was absolute garbage, and George Godsey and Eric Studesville have a lot to do with that. And again, Flores was asked, change your staff. And he said no. So if I would not be surprised if Tua goes somewhere else and plays very well, because if you give him an offense that is not high school level, it'll function. Like we are assuming that the only thing that Tua can run is the RPO. Just last night, Ethan, there were plenty of times throughout both between all the games. We saw quarterbacks sitting back there, one hopping in the pocket, waiting for the guy to be open, and then he fires, and there's like nobody around the receiver for like a good 10 yards in any direction. When was the last time the Dolphins were able to do that?
No, that's. I mean, look, they don't have, whether it's scheme or whether it's talent level. They don't have players who create mismatch situations for you, with the exception of their rookie wide receiver.
And their tight end they don't like.
And their tight end they don't like. And the rookie wide receiver who they're not really using properly because of the other limitations of the offense. So they don't have mismatch creators. Good teams have mismatch creators. Even in Tampa, we saw when Brady started to lose some of his weapons, what happened? He always adjusts. It takes him a game or two. But they have mismatch creators in Tampa when healthy. Okay, Godwin is a mismatch creator. Gronk is a mismatch creator. Fournette out of the backfield is a mismatch creator. Right, okay. Evans is a mismatch creator. They have mismatch creators. Antonio Brown is a mismatch creator when he's not a misfit, right? Like that's right. So they have those guys. This team does not have those guys. I mean, you go back to a Kurt Warner type situation with the Rams. They had mismatch creators all over the field. This team, like you said, has kind of 1.5, and one of them is a rookie. It's not enough. So that's a failure, again, whether it's Flores or whether it's Grier, and I guess this is what we're trying to pick apart now because this is what's going on behind the scenes. They did not, you're right, they have not created favorable circumstances. But I would argue, as we close here, the biggest unfavorable circumstance they created for Tua is you're supposed to give your young players confidence. You're supposed, especially if you invested a lot in them, and the fans have invested a lot in them. And they did everything they possibly could to undermine and sabotage his confidence. Is he the guy? I don't know. Okay,
it's looking like the answer is no. It's looking like
right, but we may not know. Again, we talk about some of the all-time greats like a Drew Brees. It took him to his second stop to really become what he's become.
6 seasons.
Russell Wilson, look at his numbers for the first 2 years. They're not what they are now. Okay, I don't know for sure, but I do agree that they didn't put him in a position to kind of feed off of his confidence. Good organizations give their young players that kind of fuel. They didn't give him that fuel. Flores is a big part of that. That was one of my criticisms of Flores, okay? But also a lot of people played a part in this. The owner, the PR staff, everybody who bungled the Watson situation, okay, played a role in this. And I think it's a little bit convenient to scapegoat Flores at this point when so many people effed up. I mean, that's my thing here. Now, will they get it right the next time? Probably not. I thought this was their best hire, okay, that they've made. Honestly, in terms of the hires that they made, to me, it was their best hire since Nick Saban. Okay, if Nick had actually committed to what he was supposed to do here instead of having an eye on going back to college and his wife not liking it here and picking the wrong quarterback and all the rest of that, if Nick had invested and tried to adjust his style to pro players, pro media, a pro market, to me, this was their best hire. In fact, in some ways, I thought it was a better hire because this guy had lived in a winning organization and done every kind of job basically for 13 years. If it's not going to work with this guy, nothing Steve Ross is going to say at a presser introducing the next guy is going to convince me that Steve knows what the F he's doing. Okay? He just doesn't. And the reality is, until he turns over ownership of this team to somebody else, they're not going to get it right. They're not going to get it right. Okay? I hate to say it, but we're in this perpetual cycle of mediocrity. And I think he made the decision at 1-7, Lewis. We can blame Flores for a lot of the 1-7, certainly the Jacksonville game, certainly for not unleashing the defense earlier, certainly for the way he's handled Tua. But I will tell you this: he was better than Gase, and he was better than Philbin, and his
sure.
players did seem to play for him. And this just seems a little bit too convenient today, especially when I sense that there's no real plan here. That's just because there typically isn't. So,
well, yeah, the scapegoating is definitely real.
Mhm.
But I will also say once again, the fact that Flores was not willing to fix his staff, knowing that it's trash, that's probably the biggest indictment on just Flores. Personnel decisions, Ethan. I've been harping on this for months.
Yeah.
Keeping Austin Jackson. It took him the week of the season to finally bench Jesse Davis for Robert Jones, who, by the way, looked better than Jesse Davis did all year.
Yeah, he did.
So again, just trusting the wrong people, investing in the wrong people. That is Flores. And oh, by the way, for everybody who is listening, if you need more Dolphins content, Alfredo Arteaga is officially posting in the chat that the emergency 3 yards per carry is up and ready. So if you guys need more Dolphins content, go over there right now. They are our flagship Miami Dolphins content, 3 yards per carry. Go check them out right now.
Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks to Nick. That's the first time he's jumped on a Dolphin stream. We appreciate that. Thanks to Shane. Thanks to Hussam. Thanks to Michael. Who did I miss? Who else? Oh, thanks to David Eversole. Thanks to Alejandro for holding
Michael
it down.
Quirk, very
producing
briefly.
it. Michael jumped on with us.
Manny came in.
Manny jumped in. Eagles fan. We had a Jets fan and Eagles fan in here. So we appreciate that. One of those two teams is going to the playoffs. One never does. And check out our sponsors. Of course, I mentioned Solis, 10% off, 5RSN, same with therapistpreferred.com. And also check out prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. Alex Dono at 3 o'clock. I'm going to jump back in with him. He'll have other 5 reasons guests. Alex is going to hold it down for us at 3 and continuing coverage here in the 5 Reasons Sports Network. There's nobody else locally who's going live on video. You're not getting this from the local TV station. So we appreciate you tuning in. Thanks, guys.